I'm just trying to organize them.
Good afternoon. At this time, I would like to call to order the Ascension Parish Home Rule Charter Revision Committee. Reverend Burnett, would you lead us in prayer?
Dear God, we thank you tonight for allowing us to gather one more time, Lord God, to come into discussions, Lord God, the betterment of the parish, Lord God. We pray that we all come on one accord, Lord God, to do the will of the people. And we thank and we praise you. And all these things we ask in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Mr. Dawson?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all very much. Next, we'll have the roll call.
Mr. Dawson?
Here.
Mr. Burnett?
Here.
Mr. Peter?
Here.
Mr. Trosclair?
Here.
Mr. Jarrow?
Here.
Mr. Kazera?
Here.
Ms. Casso? Mr. Lawler?
Here.
Mr. Martinez?
Here.
Ms. Laurent?
Here.
Mr. Hernandez?
Here.
Mr. Lambert?
Here.
One absent.
Okay. Okay, welcome everyone. For the record, please read the back of the sign-in card if you have not. I'm sure those of you all that's accustomed to speaking, you have probably already done so. If you want to sign up to speak, please do so when the public sign-in period is announced, which it is as of now. So please fill out your cards. Fill out one card for each item that you wish to speak on. The speakers will be allowed 3 minutes to speak on each item. So please, if you desire to speak on any item on the agenda, please fill out the card and you will be recognized at that particular time. Okay. We'll begin the process accordingly. All right, we have, we're going to go on section 1, number 4, I'm sorry. Number 4 of the, which reads, ABA proposed changes to section 3-01, just duly entitled Parish President and Parish Manager. At this time, I will call the speakers up to speak. And remember, you have 3 minutes. Okay. First, we have Jeremy Epps. Jeremy Epps.
Thank you, members of the committee. My name is Jeremy Epps. I've been an Ascension Parish citizen for my entire life. I am a member of A Better Ascension, and I wholeheartedly support professional management for our parish. First, let me thank you all for voting to put the parish council manager form of government on the ballot. I truly believe this is a decision for the people of this parish to make. As shown by the experts who presented to you all, the council manager form of government will bring several assets to our community, including an educated, credentialed, and experienced manager who will help us meet the opportunities and challenges we face as one of the fastest growing parishes in Louisiana. Tonight I wanted to quickly go over a timeline of events for you guys. We first publicly announced our proposal on August 1st of 2017. This proposal was emailed to the press, to the members of the council, and was put on our website. We then presented at public forums regarding our proposal, charter amendments, including at the strategic planning meeting and twice at the Ascension Parish Council meeting of the whole. We've hosted 3 public forums throughout the parish, one in Prairieville, one in Donaldsonville, and one in Gonzales. And we've attended numerous meetings to present on the ABA proposals, including the Ascension Chamber of Commerce Board, Republican Parish Executive Committee, Rotary Club of East Ascension, and the Greater Ascension Rotary Club. On October 17th of 2017, we announced some tweaks we made to the proposal in response to the public comments we all received. We were happy to make these changes because we never claimed that the proposal was our charter, that it was always the people's charter. Since that version was posted, we have presented at numerous council meetings and charter revision committees. We have had 4 experts present to this committee, and we have also been part of a numerous small group and large group discussions regarding our proposal. Based on these conversations, we have taken the advice of numerous folks in our community, including some pieces of advice that have come directly from you all. This resulted in substantial changes in only 2 articles of our proposal, Article 3 and Article 10. These changes created the position of parish presidents, changed the membership and operations of the nominating committee, and change in language in the transition section. Ultimately, this is a 21-page document that, for the exception of these recent changes, have been available to the public and to you since November. Now that we vote, the vote has been taken to recommend this form of government. We only ask that all of you approach this process in a constructive way. The status quo is not working in Ascension Parish. It's time for a change. Change isn't easy. However, when we look at communities, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Epps. Next, we'll hear from Mr. Clint Quintmore.
Good evening.
Evening.
A King for Ascension. What a title. Spent the entire weekend trying to wrap my brain around ceremonial parish president. I read the language. I kept looking at it more and more. And I realized it was an insult. It's an insult to the previous parish presidents. It's an insult to any candidate that's ever ran to make a difference in this parish. And more importantly, and the most important, it's an insult to every Ascension Parish taxpayer citizen. I'd like this committee to explain to an Ascension Parish citizen, while they sit in traffic, while they can't get out of their subdivision in the morning to go to work, while they can't make it to the ballpark to watch their kids play ball, that we got approximately, I'm assuming, $76,800 laying around to pay a ceremonial parish president, powerless, do nothing in my opinion, set the agenda, to go around taking pictures around Ascension Parish while they're sitting in traffic and we don't have money for roads. And various other projects, recreation, and everything else. I tried to envision the comments. I know, as a taxpayer, me, absolutely not. I mean, if you're going to go with a parish manager, then go with a parish manager. But you're going to do a ceremonial parish president? For what reason? How do you justify that? How do you justify this person going around? Can you imagine when he knocks on a door to try to get someone's vote? Imagine what that sounds like. Hey, how you doing? Running for parish president. Man, I got drainage problems. I got traffic problems in this subdivision. Yeah, but I can't fix any of that. I just want you to elect me so I can set the agenda and make $76,800 a year. I can't solve anything for you. I can't do anything. That's somebody else's job. I just don't understand how any tax-paying Ascension Parish citizen could be okay with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Quintmore. Next, we'll hear from Mr. Eli Brooks.
I'm glad to see all y'all wonderful people up here tonight. You know what gets me back in, I think it was back in 1974, we had the police jury, so you wanted to do away with the police jury to elect a parish president with a better education, pay him more money to run the parish. Now you want to come up with something like this. This is so stupid and idiotic. I've been living in this parish for over 40 years. I know a lot of people. My council person sitting right up there, Miss Terry. A lot of times I call on this council person to help me out. Sometimes she does me a good job, sometimes she don't. I elected her to do a job. That's like the parish president. We elect him to do a job, not a manager. If we wanted a manager, we'll let all of y'all elect that a manager. So that takes away my vote, which is very, very stupid. I vote for the person I want to run this parish. And if the person don't win that I vote for, fine and dandy, I'll support the one that I voted for or didn't vote for. So y'all think about this. You're going to let a better business come in here and tell the people what they want? You better get out there and talk to your people. You know, you got some good, very smart people sitting up here, but you can make some dumb decisions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brooks. Next, we'll hear from Gary P. Lassard.
Thank you very much. I want to read something I wrote down here because they only give you 3 minutes to speak, so it don't last too long. Okay. When I first heard about the committee wanting to review and make changes in the home rule charter, I had no problems with that because I think that there's a lot of things need to be tweeted, maybe fine-tuned, that would help Ascension Parish. Okay. But I want to ask you a question. Was it the people asking y'all to do this, or was it a better Ascension asking y'all to do this? Because I have never heard anything from people complaining about the homeroom charter in all my years as a politician. And I appreciate what y'all trying to do, but let's make sure we do the right thing, okay? The homeroom charter was adopted in 1993, and the council and the administration is supposed to follow all the guidelines and laws of the charter. The charter was adopted because of the failure of the police jury system in the first place. It gave a better system to Ascension Parish having a parish president to run it, working with the council. And I always thought this was a good idea. Okay. Why would we want to go back to the police jury system that didn't work? I just don't understand that. I think, as well as the Ascension Parish citizens as a whole, we would like to cast our vote for the candidate we want to vote for. I voted for many parish presidents during the time that I've been voting since I was 18 years old. And I think, hey, my candidate didn't win all the time, but I really appreciated and respected the person who did win and never did go out there and criticize him. We have been using the system since it's been formatted anyway. The homeroom charter was adopted and heard out by the people and voted on by the people. It seems that all this started this year with the ABA. So is it about ABA or is it for the people of Ascension Parish? I don't need a manager, and I don't need anyone to tell me who to vote for. I think we got educated people in Ascension Parish that knows the difference. So it takes the rights of the people of Ascension to exercise their right to cast their vote, and it also takes the right of a person who wants to run for parish president. That is not fair. I do not need a manager. If a manager system is so popular, we need to do away with elections all over the United States, even the president. We say, well, committee, or go ahead and tell the Congress, go ahead and put this guy in for president, and nobody will vote. So let's look at it, the governor, representatives, whatever. We'd have that system. That would be terrible. I'm ashamed of y'all.
Next, we'll hear from Ms. Kim Christie.
My name is Kim Christie. Oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive. Parish president and parish manager. You know I had to Google it. Finally, I found a city in Texas where there is a city manager, mayor, and city council. The operational duties of the mayor are to serve on the governing body, similar to having one at-large councilman that serves as chair. If ABA wants to retain our right to vote by allowing us to vote for an at-large councilman, they should just say so. If ABA, on the night of the first public hearing to talk about this during the Strategic Planning Committee, it was standing room only on both sides of the argument. Citizen after citizen spoke in opposition about wanting to vote for their parish president. Did ABA not understand that a vote for parish president is a vote for 3 branches of government, legislative, judicial, and executive? Did ABA not understand a vote for parish president is a vote for the executive leader of the parish? I wanted to Google it, but I couldn't. I wanted to Google who gave ABA this harebrained idea to elevate an at-large councilman to the executive level. Maybe by the end of tonight, we will have an answer. Did ABA think the citizens of Ascension Parish would fall for this? You've got to be kidding me. It's an insult, it's a disgrace, and it's embarrassing. All the articles in the newspapers and in the business journals talked about how the businessmen in Ascension are leading the charge to a new form of government. And you give me this, a king? ABA wants the citizens of the parish to follow these fine leaders. They are businessmen. They know what to do. They know how to solve problems, and they have an education. I ask, who is ABA? Do they know who they are? What are they trying to accomplish? They want us to follow them down this rabbit hole? No way. I tell you what, if I were to submit a document as important as this, I would be able to articulate the need for each word, each line, each section. I will be able to talk about the current challenges and how the changes in the document will specifically resolve the issues. ABA not so. They have an attorney who pointed us to this rabbit hole. They want us to stick our head in the sand like we are an ostrich and play like we don't see what we see. We see deception, manipulation, and desperation. ABA has been pushing this parish manager agenda for a long time now. If they are hearing that the people of Ascension want to vote for a parish president, then it's time to let it go.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Mr. Jeff Pettit.
I've got to take a little bit of issue with what the first speaker said, thanking this committee for putting ABA's proposal on the ballot. I hope you all know that that is not what you did last meeting. You recommended it to the council for consideration of placement on the ballot. You did not place it on the ballot. That's typical of what we hear from ABA. We get misleading statements and we don't get true facts, and that's an issue. It is not on a ballot. I take great issue with that. ABA also said they've held numerous meetings, and that is correct. And they continue to this day every Friday at a local supermarket with members of this committee, 2, 3, 4 at a time. Does anybody here want to own up and disclose what was discussed, who attended? Why were these meetings so important to have in private and not in public, to where it could go out to everybody over Channel 21, where they could look at it on the video archive on YouTube? That's an issue. Why operate behind the scenes? This committee is supposed to represent the people, okay? The people. The People's Home Rule Charter Revision Committee. This committee has turned out to be ABA's Home Rule Charter Revision Committee. So you need to rename yourself the ABA Home Rule Charter Revision Committee. If that's what this is going to be, let's call it what it is. Put it out on the table. More deception, and you're not pulling the wool over the people's eyes. We're not going to let you do that. Y'all recommended this to go to the council for a vote to place on the ballot. You did that without vetting it. We started that process tonight, but the recommendation went out last meeting. You sound just like Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats when Obamacare was passed out of Congress. We have to pass it to see what's in it. Do you know how ridiculous that sounds? It's absolutely ridiculous. You made a recommendation without vetting it. And if you vetted it privately. And that's a disservice and an injustice to the residents of Ascension Parish.
Next, we'll hear from Mr. Todd Acosta.
Thank you all for hearing us tonight. What we have here is a document, and this document is not a document of the people or this committee. It's not by the people or this committee, nor or for the people. This is a document drafted by lawyers outside of the parish and paid for by ABA. Not one word of this document has been spoken about by this Home Rule Charter Commission in any official capacity until this date and hour. What's a stab in the back to each and every resident of this parish is that 6 of you commissioners already approved it to send to the council to have this added to the December 8th voters ballot. Why are 6 commissioners in such a hurry to get this to the parish council? It took the last Home Rule Charter Commission 18 plus months to come up with this document. Before the end of the last, I missed my spot now. Before the end of last week's meeting, this document, ABA's final document, as they call it, did not exist publicly. I'd like to read as best I can an article from the Advocate, A King for Ascension. In an era when many voters criticize government as a haven for do-nothings, the notion of creating a do-nothing president position in Ascension Parish seems off-key, to say the least. Civic leaders in the parish have been mulling the idea of changing the parish president's form of government into one led by a parish manager who would presumably be hired by the council. But the proposal floated last week would allow the political establishment to have its cake and eat it too, with a parish manager running the government and a parish elected by the residents to serve as a ceremonial head of the parish government. This is pretty much how things were done in England, which has a ceremonial head of the government in its monarch. Although royal fever has been intense lately with the wedding of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, we doubt that the good people of Ascension want or need a South Louisiana equivalent of a king or queen to represent the parish's interests. Paying politicians do very little has long, Paying politicians do very little has a long tradition in Louisiana. The idea of ceremonial president for Ascension Parish would be one to keep a custom going.
Next, we'll hear from Mr. Scott Sheets.
I apologize for my appearance. I've been working every day, so I came straight from work to do this. I'm pretty sure I don't smell as bad as this proposal, but I'd like to start with Section 5-02, the Chief Administrative Officer in the Home Rule Charter. Chief Administrative Officer.
Excuse me, Mr. Sheets, we're on Section
Okay, I signed up for 4.
Yeah, you have 4, but 4 have 12 different categories or sections within it. Now, we're going to work our way down to.
Okay, I can start further down from that.
Right now, we're on the parish president and parish manager. That's
Okay.
the subject matter we're
All
discussing.
right, I'll get on it right now.
All right. Yes, sir. Thank you.
I was planning to speak on the ridiculous gesture of a figurehead parish president, but we've heard from others enough about that. I'd only add a few things. Give the people's choice veto power. If you're going to put a figurehead in, give them the veto power. At least the people of Ascension Parish would be represented in some way by doing that. I'm sure this wouldn't align with the ABA agenda, however. ABA is trying to deceive apathetic voters who won't take the time to read its proposal. That sounds like politics as usual with an ABA twist. ABA is practicing the politics it has condemned. It is Louisiana politics at its finest. Apparently, ABA has drugged some of this committee along for the hayride. Given the council's track record, I have no confidence in the council to appoint the right manager any more than they appointed the right board of commission members. Maybe the figurehead should be involved in selecting the manager. After all, it is the council that appoints the Planning and Zoning Commission, which has been an unmitigated disaster for this parish. And it is the council, with one exception. How you been, Coach Van? It is the council that appointed this Home Rule Charter Revision Committee. Let the council stick to rig and subdivision plat approvals like Jamestown Crossing, Oak Grove, townhouses, Reese Lane, Riverton, and so on. I don't need, nor do I want, the council to appoint the chief executive of my parish. That goes double for the Chamber of Commerce, the Rotary, and especially not the 10 largest employers in Ascension. Doesn't BASF, headquartered in Germany, reap enough benefit from industrial tax exemptions? Why should they have a say in who runs things in our parish? I want the opportunity to choose my parish president along with my fellow citizens at the ballot box, even if we get it wrong sometimes. What I'd really like to know is how many committee members have met ABA? How often? What was discussed? Who represented ABA? Was it their parish lawyer present at these private meetings? Will anyone answer the question? I thought not, but I have it on good authority as happened almost weekly. Ladies and gentlemen of the parish, the agenda set here tonight isn't the only agenda being pursued. What that hidden agenda may be is anyone's guess. I'll venture a guess. For example, council chairman's buddies stand to gain tens of millions of dollars in sewer development from friendly council with power it would gain over the parish leader. A council manager would either have to bend to the will of a council, which, as I have pointed out, has been derelict and downright inept at controlling infrastructure and development, or be cast a scapegoat and fired by the same council. As was stated by Mr. Martinez in another meeting, we tried this before and neither individual lasted a year. We've also had professionals like Mr. Compton and Mr. Depew whose honest professional advice and opinion cost them their jobs. To state the council and a parish manager will result in less corruption is a hoax. Oh yes, my friends, there's an agenda here, and it's being pushed on the predication that the electorate is ignorant and apathetic.
Okay, that's all the cards we have for section 3-01 for public comment. At this time, the floor is open from any committee member to discuss any aspects. Excuse me?
We got here, go way around myself. We got here like a couple seconds. The speaker was already up there. I wanted to make some comments in relation to, what we're discussing.
Okay, come forward, sir. Were you here when we made the announcement that if anybody
No.
You weren't, okay.
I must have got her just a couple of seconds,
Okay, if it's okay with the committee members to allow him to speak,
I would move that we waive the meeting, let the man speak.
okay, no opposition. Go ahead, sir. Please identify yourself.
Yes, the name is Charles Wilson. I'm Ascension Parish resident. I agree with the individual, well, several individuals here. But I just wanted to address just a couple of things. First of all, I see our former parish president, Tommy Martinez, there. Tommy Martinez knows me real good, great individual. Did a great job, in a sense. I also, in a sense, know Kenny Matassa also, too. What I was really wondering, actually, in a sense, when I saw the article, when I saw this article here, I really thought this was a joke. This is so ludicrous, this must be some type of joke, okay? First of all, it's an insult. It's an insult to our parish president right now, Kenny Matassa. I'm wondering, in a sense, really myself, what type of game is being played, okay? There's something going on here. For you to come up with this game about a ceremonial parish president. And I saw the vote, Tommy Martinez, Mr. Quasar, and 2 other people, in a sense, voted against it. That's what this article says, okay? But there's a lot of people, in Ascension Parish that would definitely be against what you're trying to run today, okay? This doesn't make any sense. I mean, you have a ceremonial individual going around giving certificates or in the high schools or whatever the person's going to do. Because I saw also that you said that this individual is going to be the manager. He has the hiring, the firing, and everything else, as far as all department heads and everything. So this to me, I mean, just like the man said right there, this is crazy. This is really crazy, you know what I mean? And, matter of fact, I got a lot of people. I got a lot of people right here now in Ascension Parish that's against this. And see, I'm not just talking off a game, okay? I'm a former executive director. I'm originally from the city of Pittsburgh. I was executive director in a sense of agencies for 25 years, okay? And also this thing you're talking about right now, they did it before. This was done before, and it was a failure. And it was done in 20 miles north of Philadelphia, okay? This city manager, the mayor, and all this kind of stuff that you guys are talking about. Well, anyway, I won't say all guys, there's ladies here too. But what's being talked about? This is some type of joke. And I have to really second the emotion as far as Kenny Matassa. I mean, I don't see Kenny now, but Kenny Matassa I figure has done a real good job. And this is crazy. Even Mr. Coitman that ran against Kenny Matassa, he said it's crazy, and I agree with him. This should go out to the community, the public, I mean, whatever. To find out what the people are saying. I think a lot of you are working working in a vacuum. You know, I understand my time's up, but I'm just saying, truthfully enough, I'm definitely against it in a sense, and I think it needs to be vetted more because there's a lot more behind this here. Okay, because I've been hearing out in the community. One last thing I want to say is, okay, there's somebody that's behind this. And I mean, this is just, I mean, it's ludicrous. This is crazy. Now, I hope in a sense that the community will get a chance, or whichever way you do it, to respond to this. Because I know myself, I don't really want, no ceremonial president, and then you're going to have another person. You might, when you screen for this job, in a sense, I mean, to think about it, are you going to be screening individuals up, all over? But I think there's a hidden agenda in this. So like I said before, whenever you have your next meeting, I'm going to come back every time. I'm going to come back every time. And every time I come back, I'm going to bring more people. Because this is a disgrace.
Okay,
Thanks.
Mr. Wilson, please make sure to give your card.
Oh, yeah, I got my card right here.
To the secretary, right here.
Oh, yeah, here I go. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Wait a minute. I have my own private business, too. I'm retired now.
Okay, no, we mean your sign-in card. Your sign-in card.
Okay. Here's my card.
All these. Okay, 2, yeah.
Okay. And you want me to sign where you want to sign, you say?
She's going to show you.
Uh-huh. Oh, okay. Okay. I'll bring it back up to her because I don't want to hold the meeting up.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, okay?
Thank you, sir.
Uh-huh.
Okay, now we'll go back to.
I'm with Mr. Wilson. My name's Bill Waymeyer. I live on 40118 Drivers Lane in Pelican Point. I've been here for 15 and a half years.
Okay.
And may I make one comment about 35 seconds?
35 seconds. It's okay with the committee?
Let the man talk.
So be it. Go ahead, sir.
My comment, I'm just a citizen. I don't get too involved with too many things. And I look at it this way. I know the parish president is an elected official, as a bunch of other folks have said here this evening. If you want to make a change, put it on the ballot. Let us, the people, decide whether we want a parish manager or not. That's all I got to say about it. And also, if you do change it, I know Mr. Martinez has been in parish government longer than I've been around, and I grew up in East Baton Rouge Parish. And I remember all the trouble that started there when Woody Dumas was in office and he became the mayor, parish president in Baton Rouge, because they combined the two positions. And now what we have, if you, like me, are on the Baton Rouge water system, we have that $45.77 sewer tax every month. And that started out as a little joke so East Baton Rouge could build a new improved water facility that they completed about, 12 years ago, 10 to 12 years ago. And I understand they have operating fees, but that fee went up from about $10, $12 a month to now $45.77. And I think if we get other people involved that are not elected, they won't be responsible to the people. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Make sure that file the card and turn it into the secretary.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, now, we'll go back. It's now time for the committee members of the committee to vet Section 3-01, Parish President and Parish Manager. Raise your hand to be recognized, and we'll do so accordingly. Any comments? Any questions? Any further discussion? Mr. Dawson?
So, I mean, I'm hearing what the people are saying, and we have in here an elected parish president. I think that there is some usefulness in that, and I understand, though, what people are saying about it being ceremonial, and that is in the language. You know, that same person would would be the head of the council. That person would be head of, I have a proposed change to make him also head of a declared emergency. And, if you look in different, so for example, when we had the lady Kim here from North Carolina, who was a professor, and, what I remember her saying were that the most successful of these county managers or city manager forms of government were the ones that had an elected mayor or an elected parish president. So I think that's kind of, what the background is. But myself personally, if the committee wants to remove that, that elected position, then, I don't think that's a critical part of this proposal.
Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Martinez?
I'm just starting that discussion, Mr. Chairman.
I got it.
Like I said, this is, it really is an insult to have a ceremonial parish president. I agree with a lot of the speakers here tonight. If you're going to make this guy, if you want to do this, I would say go ahead and pay him $150,000. And if we move with this, they can also give him job duties and descriptions other than what we have here. And one of them I would like to see, if you do this, is to go ahead and put him ahead of economic development in Ascension Parish and quit paying the $400 to the Economic Development Council and put that under parish government since the laws have changed. So if you go with it, I'm not for it, I'm going to vote against it. But if you do make that motion, I'm going to go ahead and amend the motion to say what I just said.
Okay, Mr. Lawler?
I hear what people are saying. I'm not for paying somebody $150,000 or $78,000, $79,000, whatever it may be. I also don't think it's a good situation that we take a elected official, make them the head of economic development. Once again, I think that's a specialized position. It's just my opinion. I think that's something that takes some real skill, some knowledge, some experience. I wouldn't feel comfortable if we elect the most popular person in the parish and we say they're going to do economic development. I don't think we'd have the right type of economic development that we need. I'm just not a big fan of a make-believe parish president. Quite frankly, I'd make an amendment that we revise section 3.01 to read, the executive branch shall consist of a parish manager, eliminating the rest of that, of the second sentence, the entirety of the second sentence, keeping the third sentence. It says the parish manager shall be appointed by the governing authority as provided herein, basically eliminating the make-believe parish president.
Second that.
Okay. Okay, we do have a second. Mr. Martinez, pull your mic.
Respond to, when you do, if you would, we're going to go with this, we can make the qualification that they had to have a BA in business administration to hold that position as parish president.
Okay, Mr. Trosky.
So for clarity on Mr. Lawler, basically you're abolishing, or you want to get rid of section 301, 02, 03, and 04, correct?
Well, since we weren't speaking on those, I was going to get to that point
But
when we got
in a sense?
basically, yes.
Okay.
Yes. I just didn't want to jump ahead of the game there, but I think the original intent was to go with the parish manager.
Right.
And, instead of having this make-believe parish president. But if we want to do it all at once, we can.
I think it's all intertwined. Might as well make that motion.
I agree, but I didn't want to get the portions that, I know we have other speakers on each of the sections that I'm sure they want to speak, but I tell you what, I'll make the motion that, I'll amend my motion that in addition to what I previously said, we eliminate sections 3.02, 03, and 04, thus shortening the time period that we have to sit here tonight. No?
Well, if I think you have to allow the speakers on those items before we can vote on them.
Well, they may waive their,
That's not our choice, though.
I'm getting a nod of the head here.
No suggestions to the audience. But anyway, Mr. PT.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of funny what Mr. Lawler said, but you want to shorten the time here? Is that you agree to do the job? So can we quit? I'm starting to get offended by besmirching the character of only a couple of people showing up and belittling people who do speak. I mean, it's starting to really offend me. And you can say whatever he wants, but it's not funny. Okay, if you're not taking it serious, you should have appointed somebody. Okay. The other thing I got is, whose document is this? I mean, apparently we are going to vet this thing and we're just going to be the document coming out of the committee. I think if we're suggesting this, I think that some members of ABA may want to have the opportunity to weigh back in on this thing because, and I don't want to speak for them, but if we're going down this route, they had, I think, maybe one supporter or commenter here. I think you may, out of fairness, I think we should give them the opportunity to weigh in and express their opinions as to what, I don't know. Maybe they thought, maybe this was all planned. I don't know. At this point, I have, I'm perplexed and befuddled. And but if we're going to do this, I think it's only fair to give members of ABA who supported this king for Ascension Parish the opportunity to come and speak and defend it. If they really meant it, I don't really know if they meant it or not. Maybe Mr. Trosclair can shed some light on that. But I'm becoming very tiresome to hear a member of this committee take shots at citizens of this parish. Thank you.
There was no shot taken to any citizen of this parish whatsoever. Is that clear, Mr. PT?
It is not clear. What's clear, Mr. Lawler, is you don't care about the citizens of this parish. You asked me a question, Mr. Lawler. I'm answering your question.
I didn't offer it.
You said, is that clear, Mr. PT? That's a question, Mr. Lawler.
It doesn't matter. I didn't give you a chance to answer. It's rhetorical.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to ask each member within your ability to please recognize the process, and let's stay within that. Many times before, we've said that we will not take personal jabs at one another. We will speak to the issue at hand. Please, I'm asking that we stay online with that particular process. Please. Now, we are representing Ascension Parish here, and I think Ascension Parish deserves better.
Agreed.
Okay. Mr. Dawson and then Mr. Burnett.
Well, I'd just like to say, we have a motion and we have a second, and as far as bringing somebody back up, if, normally that's not the process. So if one of the, committee members, the motion and the second are in the hands of the committee.
Correct.
So if the committee members want to make the comments, I think that's the pathway, but thank you.
Sure. Any further comments or discussion?
Question on the motion.
Question has been called. Now we're going to vote on the motion. It has been made and second.
All right, repeat the motion so we make sure we know what we're voting on.
For
Please.
clarity. Madam Secretary.
To eliminate from the first sentence, the parish president, keep this, eliminate the second sentence of the paragraph, and keep the third sentence. Was Aaron's motion.
Okay.
Before we vote, can I make?
Mr. Burnett?
Just a question that was brought up by one of the citizens. Is the issue the duties of the parish president, or is it the name of parish president? I think one of the citizens mentioned the possibility of having an at-large councilman. Is that a discussion? Instead of calling the parish president, would they prefer to have an at-large councilman and still have 2 votes? Just a question.
Well, parish president is, as I appreciate it, is in the Home Rule Charter. So that's why the dual positions have been mentioned in this proposal that we're vetting, Section 301, because they move, it's a mindset, I thought, to have both. So what we're doing now with the motion is to basically erase, withdraw parish president and keep the last, the term. The parish president shall be appointed by the governing authority as provided for herein. So any other discussions aren't on the table at this time. This is basically moving on, taking out the parish president and keeping in the parish manager, as I appreciate it.
Question?
Mr. P.T.
I thought there was a motion to take out 3-01 through 3-04, I'm guessing?
No, well, this motion, the first motion
I thought Mr. Lawler had rectified, well, Ms. Trusclair posed a question about getting rid of 2, 3, and 4 as well, because those are all having to do with the powers and duties of the parish president, qualifications, and compensation. So, just a question.
Okay, as I appreciate it, yes. Mr. Lawler did state that, but it was not second, per se.
Okay.
All right. Mr. Dawson.
Well, I made that comment that I don't think we can vote on one of these paragraphs until we have the public comment. That's the open meetings law. So I don't think we can, I don't think we should include that in there. I realize that it's going to get rid of all of it, but we have to allow time for comment before we vote.
And we do have citizens that have signed up to speak on it, okay, procedurally. All right, so this that we're about getting ready to vote on is basically, as the Secretary said, taking out parish president in the first line and taking out the entire second line, and in keeping in there, the parish manager shall be appointed by the governing authority as provided for herein. That's the motion. All right. Is there any opposition to the motion? Any opposition to the motion? Any opposition? Hearing none, the motion is hereby carried. Okay, now, the next section that we...
Mr. Quasar.
Yes.
Question, comment? I think it's real important for people to realize, like we've talked about, all we're doing is making some recommendations to the council, and that all of this is to be voted upon by the citizens. I mean, the people, we had a former soldier here years ago that we would, when we first met, we taken away the vote of the people. Well, that's not true. We're providing people with an opportunity to choose what type of government they want. And I think it's important for people to realize that. I think everybody sitting up here is just trying to do what's right. Whether you agree or you don't agree, I think we've talked about a lot of good things that need to be talked about and acted upon by somebody today, tomorrow, next week, 10 years from now, or even 15 or 20 years from now. This is not about us solving all these problems, I can promise you, because there won't be a lot of problems after we do this, whether we do something or we don't do something. But the big thing is this will be voted upon by the people of Ascension Parish, not by me. I mean, I'm going to vote, but not by any of us individuals. And we're just trying to do what's right and best. And look, I attended a couple of those meetings at Brandon's house, and I mean at the store, trying to learn about what's best for the people of Ascension Parish. And I think that's what I'm expected to do, to try to learn as much as I possibly can. I've had a lot of questions to Tommy Martinez as a former parish president, but all about trying to learn, what's going on. Because if I knew everything that was going on, I could tell y'all what to do, but I can't do that. I think that's important that people realize that.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
Mr. Queezer. I went to met with Brandon as well, and I don't see anything wrong with that. But you got one side of the story here, and what is happening here is a betrayal of the duties and the functions of what this committee should be doing. We should be weighing the other side. There are counter arguments to this, and we have bastardized the process to give a Better Ascension an upper hand here. They had time to bring in, we could have started vetting their proposal on, March, for two meetings in March, but they decided to bring experts in. Paid experts.
Point of order, we're on qualifications of the parish president.
I'm responding to Mr.
Okay, Mr. P.T.
Oh, can I continue, Chairman Queezer?
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. So to echo some of what Coach Mann is saying, I don't see anything wrong with vetting the process, okay? But there's two sides to every issue. And we haven't heard this other side of the issue. And we talk about the resolution that created this committee. And it said, it envisioned the hiring of experts by this committee. One of the first things we were supposed to do is discuss and recommend a budget to bring in our experts. None of that happened. So we were given a steady, 7 hours worth of ABA propaganda. Okay, propaganda. Mr. Gaston admitted, I am biased toward the parish, the council manager governance. Another guy who worked for ICMA said his job is to go and create county managers. Okay, we got an academic who made her career, and I read all 23 papers that she has published, and she has made her academic career on council manager governance. And then we got ABA's paid lawyer, and Mr. Garrett is very impressive. And I enjoyed my time. I spoke to him, met with him for a couple hours, and found him to be charming and engaging and professional and very effective. But he's paid by ABA. So if we're not going to get the other side of this thing, okay, that's not real vetting. Without some expertise, I don't feel comfortable that I have a level of expertise to talk about this without some expert guidance. If we're not going to do that, let's just quit this sham right now and forward this thing to the council, and then they can vet it or not vet it as they see fit. Okay, because this has become less than productive. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Lawler, your comments?
Just a point of order. I don't know what that had to do with section 3.02, qualifications of the parish president.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move to section 3-02 on the agenda. That's number 5. Section 3-02, qualifications of the parish president. We have 2 speakers thus far. First, Mr. Clint Quentmore.
302.
We didn't vote on it.
Okay, we're here to speak on section 3-2, which we just had a motion to eliminate parish president from section 3.01. Not a single ABA person, not one, got up and said anything about removing the parish president from this document. Not one. Are you vetting it or you're writing it? What's the duties of this committee? Are you writing ABA's proposal? Is this ABA's writing committee? Because you just changed this entire document. Wasn't this supposed to be the final version? This is an absolute circus. So you're going to eliminate parish president from section 3.02. You are writing this document. You're not vetting it. You are writing it. I mean, so now that everything I prepared for has been completely and drastically changed. This is befuddles me. I mean, I'm just aghast. I am just a loss for words, which is just rare. I mean, this is an ABA committee. You're not a home rule charter committee. You're an ABA committee. You just rewrote this entire document, last section. The entire thing. Everything's changed. Everything, every section. Right or wrong? Right or wrong? It's a good question, Mr. Van. Right or wrong?
Next, Mr. Gary Lassard.
Talked about the qualifications of a parish president. Well, the ABA didn't want us to have a parish president, so I disagree with that. But what I'm about to say, any changes that in the home rule charter, complete vetting needs to be done. Every T needs to be crossed and every dot needs to be dotted. It can't be handed to the council until it's completed. If y'all don't complete it, y'all incomplete. Okay, y'all didn't do your job. So I hope y'all do that. Okay. Now we're talking about qualifications for parish president. Well, I remember the qualifications were very simple. They went by the home rule charter recommendations, qualifications. It's in the home rule charter. It tells who's qualified, what you have to do, what you have to be, what you have to do by the home rule charter election laws. Now, the ABA at first said, oh, we're going to go ahead. We think a manager's position is the best thing to put in our parish and get rid of the parish president. Take away the vote of the people. Well, the council is a governing body, okay? And the administration sees that it's done. Anything that they recommend to the administration tries to work with the council to get things done. And that's the way it should work as a governing body. I don't need the council to tell me who in the hell is going to be my president or my leader of Ascension Parish. They have the right also to run with their qualifications. So my candidate ought to have the right to run with his qualifications and be voted on by the people. The council is elected by the people. What's the difference? Is it a double standard? They're taking away our opportunity to vote for a parish president. But they get voted by the people. So that's not fair. That's not fair. I have the right to vote. And our Constitution gives us two great things: freedom of speech and the freedom to vote. And that's the greatest thing that we can ever ask for. But the ABA changed their position on this thing about the manager. All of a sudden now, oh, we're going to go ahead and let y'all vote in a parish president too. And the manager will be over him. And the poor parish president, he'll be, I don't know, kissing babies, maybe attending a meeting, answering the phone, and maybe serving coffee and donuts. I don't know. That would be his job. Ain't that pitiful? I am totally disappointed that y'all would even think to get rid of the parish president's position. I have one more thing to say, I know I'm out of time, is that the people deserve more. And I think nobody on this committee or the council should change the voting or election laws of the home rule charter. That would be the biggest mistake y'all ever gonna make. We need to stay away from there. That is a law that was written in the home rule charter on the election law. It's all just like the state, federal, all of them have election laws. Well, I don't need the council to make, just do their job and run their districts. That's enough problem for them already. They don't need to be changing our election laws in the home rule charter. I appreciate it, and I'm gonna tell you something. I had the freedom to speak to y'all, which I appreciate, but also I'm gonna vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's all the comments we have from the audience dealing with section 3-02. What's the will of the committee?
I'll move to remove it, please.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion? It's been moved and second. No discussion. We have any opposition? Any opposition? Hearing no opposition, the motion is hereby carried. All right. Item number, excuse me. Item number 6, section 3-03, powers and duties of the parish president. Mr. Todd Acosta.
Thank you again for listening to us. 3.03-03, powers and duties. So in 3-02, a qualified elector of the age of 18 can run for the parish president's position. But in 3-03, there is a whole list of requirements this new parish president should have to do, including the presiding officer over regular and special meetings, establishing regular and special meetings, presiding over regular and special meetings of the governing authority, and currently there's 8 to 10 of those a month, participating in discussions of any matter before the governing authority. Would that include executive sessions, since the parish president is only ceremonial? He would cast votes to break ties on the matters before the governing authority. Why would a ceremonial parish president be given that power? Make appointments to parish boards, commissions with concurrence with the governing authority. Why would the ceremonial parish president be given this authority? We the people already don't trust our governing authority. Well, most of them anyway.
Okay, next we'll hear from Mr. Jeff Pettit.
Powers and duties of the parish president. Now, the motion's been made, Mr. Chairman, to eliminate this from the proposal, and we're hearing these because people signed up for them.
Excuse me, sir, the agenda has been made public, so.
Now, I'm going back earlier in the meeting. I just want to make sure I understood what has been passed.
Okay. Only because this is a published agenda.
Right, and so that's why we're letting people speak on things,
Yes,
even though we're.
They've already signed up.
Right,
Yes,
I
sir.
understand that. I just
Okay.
wanted to make sure. So we're talking about powers and duties of the parish president. I really have nothing to say, except that since it's going to be deleted anyway, predicated on what happened before, except I'm disappointed, because I was really hoping that I could apply to become the ceremonial court jester to the ceremonial parish president. That's how ridiculous this thing was. Thank you.
Okay, next, Mr. Clint Quintmore.
I'm here to vet section 3-03, which is going to change here all of a sudden real quick. So let me go vet what I can't speak on. That was the final version. Here's the final version. Changing as we speak. So I kind of find it funny who's recommending the changes, not the citizens, but the elected officials. So, section 3-03, part C. Parish president shall make appointments to parish boards and commissions, the concurrence of the governing authority. This is a conflict with section 4-12E, which now we're going to take out, but no one has, from legal, from the parish administration, has looked at this document and vetted it. And at least if you're going to do this like this, hokey pokey, and just make up stuff as we go, because the citizens can't comment on something that changes after we comment, at least have the parish administration legal look at this so that they can point out the obvious conflicts that I just stated that are throughout this document. I mean, since I guess you're doing the council's vetting for them, I mean, you might as well just put an effort of having parish legal take a look at it and look at the conflicts that exist in the document. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kim Christie?
My name is Kim, and I still have a lot to say. I am deeply disturbed. We started this process a couple of months ago, and ABA has just now taken the responsibility to, quote, unquote, try to make a better document. I have to ask, what is the business purpose of having a parish president? We're not going to have it now, but ABA wouldn't even get up to defend it. ABA's own expert told the committee, if you're choosing a parish manager, you have to go all in. But what's this? Once again, this demonstrates ABA does not care about the expert's opinion or the code of ethics. ABA is trying to accomplish something, and once that was threatened, they are now trying to protect something. And what is most disturbing is that before one word of ABA's charter was discussed, this committee voted to recommend this document to the parish council to be placed on the ballot. Once again, I'll ask the question, who is ABA? Most of the people in ABA don't know. This is a project that has been talked about for years. Why did ABA decide to become a 501c4 from day one? The preamble of my charter says, we the people of the parish of Ascension. Does someone from outside the parish have a right to have influence over how I choose to govern myself? It's called pay to play. If someone is paying ABA from outside the parish, they will be looking for a return on their investment, and it won't be in good roads and schools. I have a slide I'd like to show. It's a Better Ascension, a 501c4, as well as Citizens for a Better Ascension, PAC. There we go. Okay. So you have ABA 501c4 donors, developers, engineering firms, non-residents, residents. We don't know who they are. According to the Supreme Court, we will never know who they are. Do they have a right to say how I choose to govern myself? Can they put influence into how I choose to govern myself? And then after it gets to the ballot, they're going to become a PAC. ABA PAC, the donors. ABA 501c4. We will never know. And then you have other donors who will probably be residents of the parish. But they don't have a right to have a say in how I choose to govern myself. It's called pay to play. They're going to be looking for a return on their investment. And you're going to throw everybody who's upset at the planning commission to the wolves. We're trying to get away from the wolves. You're going to throw them right back to the wolves. Thank you.
I agree.
Okay. That concludes the public comment on Section 303, Powers and Duties of the Parish President. What's the pleasure of the committee?
I move to eliminate this section.
It's been moved. Second. We have a second? Mr. Dawson. Moved by Mr. Lawler, second by Mr. Dawson. Any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none. Any opposition to the motion? Any opposition? Any opposition? Hearing none. The motion is hereby carried. Okay, the next section on the agenda is that of number 7, Section 3-04, Compensation of the Parish President. We have some speakers for Mr. Todd Acosta. Todd Acosta.
I guess this really matters anymore, but compensation of the parish president. Compensation shall be in the amount of 4 times the compensation of the governing authority, which I believe to be around 16,000, I guess, not real sure. But it appears it's around 76,000 from other comments from tonight, plus any other benefits given to full-time employees. What it doesn't say or state is the parish president shall be an employee of Ascension Parish only. As written, what would stop the parish president from being employed by any of the many companies doing business with Ascension Parish currently, and him or her leverage that power around the Ascension Parish office complex or any of the regular or special meetings or any of the boards or commissions that he is over in Section 3-03, which is now deleted. We don't trust most of the governing authority right now. Why would we trust a future parish president?
Next, Mr. Jeff Pettit. Okay, thank you. Next, Mr. Clintmore. Quintmore.
Parish president shall be compensated in the amount equal to 4 times the compensation of a member of the governing authority. What an insult to the councilman we have sitting elected today. You're going to pay a no-do-nothing parish president 4 times what they get paid? The work that they put in? Countless hours and phone calls? You're going to pay this parish president, which we're not going to pay anymore because we're just making this up as we go along? But what an insult to them. To pay this do-nothing parish president 4 times what they get paid. And it's all going to change, so I'll wait till we get to the parish manager stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kim Christie.
I think it's relevant that we continue to go through the parish president just to show how little thought is put into the ABA document. They have an agenda. They're trying to accomplish something. Can't prove what it is, but it is an agenda. So we have this do-nothing parish president who makes 4 times the salary of the parish council, and he can only discuss agenda items and only vote to break a tie. How did they come up with this amount? Why 4? Why not 3 or 5? How about $700 a photo op plus expenses? ABA talks about efficiency and savings, and they want to give full benefits to a photo op president. Does that sound real to you? And I have an article. It says 8 arrested in California city salary scandal. The mayor and former city manager of Bell were led away in handcuffs Tuesday, charged with 6 other officials with taking more than $5.5 million from the working class suburb in a scandal that triggered nationwide outrage and calls for more transparency in government. Former city manager Robert Rizzo, Mayor Oscar Hernandez, and the other current and former city officials were rounded up during morning raids on their homes that prompted many of their neighborhoods to burst into cheers. And I'm not going to read the whole article, but I'll just point out a few lines for you. Others taken into custody were former assistant city manager Angela Spacey, Vice Mayor Teresa Jacobo, council members, and I'll skip down to what's relevant, the former assistant city manager. Spacey was making $376,288. Next page. It is clear that Rizzo and Spacey were at the root of the cancer that has afflicted this city. The parish manager is not perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's it for the speakers on this subject matter, compensation of the parish president. At this time, what's the will of the committee?
In keeping with our previous motions to remove this, please.
Okay, been moved. Ms. Cazzo, second by Mr. Lambert. Any further discussion?
I'd like to make a comment, Jim.
Yes, sir. Mr. PT.
Yeah. While I don't disagree with what we're doing here, is I think this needs to go. It is a little bit disturbing at how little thought, little input, and the willingness to deviate from what we, for a year now, A Better Ascension has insisted was about efficiency and better government and yada, 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 and blah, blah, blah. Okay? Just so brazenly and without, was any thought put in this? They were proposing to pay a ceremonial figurehead parish president $76,800 with benefits, full benefits. So that works out to, I don't know what the benefits were. Call it even $100,000. Over a 4-year period, that's $100,000. Okay, that could have paid for, engineering studies on a weir lowering or something like that. Okay, to see how easy it was for them to deviate from what was so sacrosanct for a year now. Okay, and throw this in the mix. And as soon as it became politically inexpedient, they had to get away from it. So I think that's telling about what this is all about. They ABA put out a press release, March 30th, 2018, on June 1st, talking about how ecstatic they were. Okay, now they got the stronger document with this parish president. So to me, this is very telling. And it is an absolute travesty that this committee would have considered voting to approve and forward something to the council without considering any of this. And I'm reminded of what Groucho Marx says. Any club that would accept me as a member, okay, I'm not so sure I want to be on it. But, I mean, I'm off the soapbox. I do not object to the motion.
Okay, any further discussion, Mr. Martinez?
At least if you'd had that parish president, if he'd had to take campaign contributions, he'd had to come up with a public document and disclose it. I don't know why this group does not do that. If you want to have your 504C, I know it's legal, but if you want better government and you want to be transparent, you should at least put the documents out on who's campaign, who's paying the campaign, who's paying the lawyers, who's paying the consultant, and everything else. So don't tell me, sit up here and tell me you're for a better government, but you're going to hide behind the 504C and not allow anybody to know where your money's coming from. At least when you're elected, and if you haven't elected this parish president, we have to always abide by the law. So that's one thing. If you want to really make a difference and you really want to be transparent, I think you should at least be honest enough to come up and let us know who those donors are. So we'll know in the future, if this passes, who's getting paid back and who's not. And if it's at all, they're going to be getting paid back. So that's all I want to know.
Okay, any further comments? Hearing none, we have a motion on the floor, moved by Ms. Cazzo, second by Mr. Lambert. Any opposition to the motion? Any opposition to the motion? Hearing none, the motion is hereby carried. Okay, next we'll move to item 8 on the agenda, which is in particular, section 3-05, qualifications of the parish manager. We have public comments, first from Mr. Todd Acosta.
This is parish manager, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So this kind of goes away, but. So ABA could not garner the support from the public that they thought they would get. So they changed their tactics and their verbiage yet again for the third time. And here, our elected officials are changing it again here tonight on a document that is supposed to be final, no more changes, that 6 of you have already voted on. So this is all going away now. So basically, all of this was done to trick the people of Ascension Parish into believing they are now going to be able to vote for a parish president, which now there seems like it's going away again. All the while, they are still hand-picking their parish manager that will have all the power, including a lot of the power that the council currently holds. So I had this little Bible doll that I was going to present during the parish president's piece, which says, parish president will include a handshaking, dirt-digging, ribbon-cutting, kissing baby, bobblehead figure, ceremonial president. So is this what the parish manager is going to be now? Thank you.
Okay, next, Mr. Quintmore.
Parish manager shall hold a Master of Public Administration, MPA, or a Master's of Business Administration postgraduate degree, awarded by a university, accredited by the federally recognized accrediting agency, with not less than 5 years of experience in the city, parish, county, government administrations. I would love for a person like this to come to my door, tell me that they're qualified to govern me. I would love it. My first question is, how many branches are there in the Goodine Canal? How many branches? Where do they extend to? What's the worst traffic problems in Ascension? What do you need to do as my representative in helping my subdivision? I can guarantee you he can't answer them or she can't answer them because they're not fit to govern me because they don't represent me. I don't care what your education is. Prominent elected official right here in Ascension Parish was at a function, public function. And he said, the best leader we ever had in the city of Gonzales was a barber. And he was right. And I'll take Johnny Berthelot over any guy that has an MBA or MPA any day. Because that's a true leader. And he don't have these qualifications. This person is not fit or qualified to govern me. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's the end of the public comment period on the subject matter. Section 305, qualification of the parish manager. The floor is now open for comments from the, further discussion from the committee members. Mr. Lawler. Trosclair. I'm sorry, man. I gotta do better, guys.
Scared me.
Mr. Trosclair.
I'd like to make a motion to leave 305 as is.
There's a motion to leave 305 as
second
is.
it.
And
Discussion?
Yes. Whoa. It's been moved and second. Okay, now, discussion. Mr. Petey.
Yeah, just a point of clarity. I'm reading the first, and I thought we were going to try to get some of this on the overhead so people could see it. Is that not going to happen?
There are copies on the,
Okay. Right. First paragraph, I'll read it. The parish manager shall hold an MPA or master or MBA postgraduate degree, comma, awarded by a university or college accredited, yada, yada, comma, with not less than 5 years' experience in the city, parish, county, government administration at a managerial or executive level. Does that last clause, after the last comma read, the one about requiring 5 years of experience, does that apply to both the MBA and the MPA, or just the MBA? Well, I can read it both ways. So, I don't know.
As it's written, it seemed as though it may apply to both.
Yeah, but it may apply to one. That's my question.
Uh-huh.
I mean, because I can read it both ways. Yeah, I can read it that the MPA, fresh out of wherever they do hand these things out, North Carolina, yes, fresh out of school with the MPA degree is eligible to be the parish manager. So I would suggest that we are, and I don't know, I would suggest that MBAs, and there's a lot of literature out there that MBAs are a dime a dozen now. And they got a lot of them work on bread lines, okay? Because MBAs, you got more masters of business administration, you swing a dead cat and hit, a couple of them, all right? So I get the educational, the experience requirement for the MBA, and I would like the educational requirement, the actual experience requirement, is that applicable to the MPA too? Because I can read it where it's not. And I don't want some guy fresh out of whatever, North Carolina or wherever they hand these things out at, okay, getting out of school and being eligible to be Ascension Parish first designated manager. So I don't know. I want to know if it applies to both. The educational requirement applies to both the MPA and the MBA, because I can read it both ways. So it wouldn't be that hard to change it and clarify it either.
We have Mr. Danny Garrett, the attorney that wrote this here, at the request of Mr. Petey. He's here tonight, so let's have him come up and explain him.
Object. I invite him back for 5:30. He's an ABA expert. I'm tired of listening to ABA experts. We want to get an expert paid by the people of Ascension Parish that answers to this committee and this council and the taxpayers of Ascension Parish. I'm all for that. Okay? And by the way, that's what the initial resolution tasked this committee to do. We didn't do that. I'm tired. Nothing against Mr. Garrett. He's a very fine lawyer, fine gentleman. I enjoyed my 2.5 hours talking to him. But he ain't paid by Ascension Parish. He's paid by ABA. I will not accept him as an expert to this committee.
Are you making an amendment to change this?
No, I'm asking a question. What does it mean?
Okay. Any further discussion as far as
clarity? What do we want it to mean is my question.
Okay.
Well, how do I know that, Brandon? I can read it both ways. Please say it in the microphone.
You asked me what we want it to mean. I'm telling you what we want it to mean.
Well, I would suggest
so bring
that
up an attorney. You requested him to be here. Wade.
I invited him for May 30th, not tonight,
You
Mr.
requested him
Trostler.
to vet the document.
No, I'm here to vet the document. I know what Danny Garrett thinks about the document because I spent 2.5 hours with him. He is not an expert for this committee.
Okay. Ms. Cazzo, Mr. Lawler, Mr. Martinez, Mr. Lambert.
I think we just need clarity on the grammatical issue of, and certainly it is my intention that the experience should apply to both. And as well, I would personally be fine with a master's in public administration And let's don't worry about a master's in business administration, because I agree with Mr. PT.
Easy.
You can get those all over, almost. You can, you know, those are a dime a dozen.
I'm not going to let you sit here and insult him like that again.
So I would be.
I'm going to let that one go.
I would be just as happy with the correction of the grammatical error, what appears to be perhaps a grammatical error, as well as eliminating, and if someone wanted to throw some more around as far as discussion about whether a master's in business administration is something that ought to even be considered. I'm prepared to support what the majority believes is appropriate.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and we're still going through the discussion phase. We have Mr. Lawler, Mr. Martinez, Mr. Lambert. Please proceed.
Yeah, I think what Mr. PT was saying is that, you know, there are some grammatical issues. We want to make sure that the not less than 5 years experience in city, parish, county, government administration at a managerial or executive level apply to both MPA and MBA. Is that, would you?
Yes.
Well, I mean, that was the discussion I'm trying to have. I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen other charters, other plans of government where there was a graduated scale. I've seen MBAs included in some Florida plans of government, but you needed more experience as an MBA than you did as an MPA. So I don't know what the right situation is. I mean, I got no expertise in this. Okay, so I don't know. I mean, could we use some expertise on this issue?
I'm asking, would you want to change it to have it apply to all or both?
I would eliminate the MBA to second what Ms. Castle said. I don't think I would not. I'd like to eliminate the MBA completely.
Is that a motion?
I'll be happy to make that in the form of a motion.
Whoa.
But we're yet to, we got to finish this other discussion.
Yes, we still have Mr. Martinez, Mr. Lambert, then we'll come back to a possible substitute motion. Pull your mic down, sir.
I'm going to yield mine. I'll pass.
Okay, Mr. Lambert.
It explicitly, one thing tells about the degree, and then the comma is a break, and then the other thing tells about the experience that's necessary. That's pretty plain. The degree is one thing, and then with the comma and the period, I mean, the experience coming after that, I mean, it's pretty plain, I think.
Well, how do you interpret it, Mr. Lambert?
But you have to have both. You have to have the experience, educational experience with
both
with 5 years of experience in public administration.
So both degrees would require the experience in your reading. See, I would disagree.
I mean, one is one, and then with the experience.
I read it the other way, but you know.
Okay, now Mr. Burnett.
Just a question. I mean, I understand Mr. PT's concern about bringing in another expert, but if there's someone in the building who actually wrote the document, why wouldn't we need him to hear what he had to say?
I'll respond, because he wrote the document. He's out now. He's ABA. His judgment's colored. He's an expert paid by a better Ascension. Okay? Now, in a court of law, he would never be allowed to come here and be the expert for this committee, and I'll refuse, okay? That is an awful idea. I know you're in the tank for him, okay? I know you're hosting Sam Gaston. I know he's doing a feed on all that.
And hold
on. Danny Garrett
don't hit the gavel. Don't hit the gavel.
Is ABA's employee, okay?
Don't hit the
and
gavel.
he is not qualified to be an expert for this committee because his credibility as such is, you know, we know he's with ABA. He's admitted it. He's not denying it, okay? He's not denying it. So, no, he can't be the expert for this. You know, the English language is the English language. And if this ever gets to a court of law and somebody wants to run for parish president, Danny Garrett, as wise and smart as he is, his opinion means nothing when it comes down to that. Okay? Qualified parish managers, Danny Garrett wouldn't get a say on the back end of that. Okay? That's why I don't want him here.
As a committee, I didn't know we were asking for an expert. I thought if the person who wrote the document, who's better to explain it? And for your second point, yes, I did ask, just to make it clear to you, I did have a meeting to further explain the documents, and I will ask ABA to have another, and you will be invited.
I'm looking forward to it.
As well as every other citizen.
Why wasn't I invited to the first one was more the question.
This was not a private meeting.
I didn't get an
Public
invitation.
meeting. Yes, sir, you
Okay,
did
let's-
get the invitation.
Let's get back to the business at hand. No, sir, excuse me,
Now-
you're out of order, sir. The public comment period is over with on this section. Okay, now, Mr. Lawler.
Yeah, I'm going to make a substitute motion that we eliminate the language "or Master of Business Administration."
I was-
And,
okay.
well, hold
I
on,
thought you were done.
and at agency with the period, at the end of that sentence with the period, and add additionally, the parish manager shall have not less than 5 years of experience, et cetera, for the rest of that sentence. That way, there's a clear demarcation, and it's additionally, it makes it very clear for everybody. Is that a change you're good with?
I would second that motion.
Any further discussion on that substitute motion? Any further discussion, Mr. Gyro?
I want to make sure we're doing the right thing here. So we're saying that we're ruling somebody out is all I'm saying. And so we're saying somebody with an MBA really shouldn't have went to school to get the MBA or what? I just need a little more further clarification why we're fixing to wipe
Mr.
all
Lawler,
of these out.
will you re-explain?
I mean, first of all, we're ruling a lot of people out with this, myself included, and I don't know about the backgrounds of everybody at this DS or out in the crowd out there, but I think most people are being ruled out by what we're doing here, which is not a bad thing. As far as the Master in Business Administration goes, I think public administration and business administration, although I'd love to see government run more like a business, it's not a business. It is a public entity. It has to be run in a different manner, and that's what a Master in Public Administration has more experience on. There's nothing against anybody with an MBA by any means, but I think there are a lot of people in this council that would like to eliminate that, and I don't have a problem with it. I think we'll get a good person without it.
Mr. Gyro?
Just the only response I have is I think with the 5 years of experience in city, parish, county, or government administration, I think is something to make sure we're getting the right person in there if they have the MBA, that's all.
Any further comments? If not, we have a substitute motion on the floor. All right. Any opposition to the motion? Any opposition to the motion? Hearing none, the motion is hereby carried. Now we go back to the original motion, and Mr. Gyro, you have a comment?
No, we'll take the vote first.
Okay. The original motion by Mr. Dawson, second by Mr. Burnett, is to adopt the section 3-05 as amended.
Well, we don't need to. What, we already.
Excuse me?
We accepted this, we did the substitute motion, right? Yeah.
Right.
So we don't,
I'm sorry.
I'm
I'm trying to go back and double check. Okay.
I don't even know
So
Robert.
Substitute motion passes, supersedes everything else. All right.
Who's this
got it.
Robert guy that wrote those rules, by the way? Is that Danny Garrett?
All right, okay. That does it for section 3-05, qualifications of the parish manager. Next, number 8 on the agenda is section 3-05, 3-0.
No, number 9.
I'm sorry, we're on number 9. Number 9, section 3-06, appointment, contract, compensation, and removal. Public
Chairman.
comment?
Can we take a short break? Bio break? I'm fixing to take one. I don't want to walk out on somebody if they.
Move the recess.
If it's okay, if it's
Second.
okay with the
No
committee
disrespect.
members, 5-minute recess. So moved.
We're getting some rain, so, hey, it's all rain.
Okay, at this time, we'd like to reconvene the committee meeting. And as before we went on break, we're on section 9, number 9 on the, item 9 on the agenda, section 3-06, appointment, contract, compensation, and removal. We have some public speakers to come forth. Mr. Todd Acosta.
3-06, appointment, compensation, and removal. The parish manager shall be appointed by the governing authority. We don't trust the governing authority right now, most of them anyway. Why would we trust you to hire and/or fire a parish manager? Isn't that kind of like going back to the police jury system? Under 3.3-6, number 2, nominating committee, the first person from one person from 5 different organizations within Ascension Parish, as stated in AA, BB, CC, ED, and II of ABA's document. Question: where are all these industry leaders right now? Where is their given support, information, loyalty behind this document? I don't see any of them here. But you're putting a lot on their shoulders by adding them to these committees. A lot of y'all have had a lot of wasted time already, because it appears it's going in one direction and one direction only. Better yet, as stated in 3.3-06 III, the parish president, which we now know has been amended again, shall appoint one person, a ceremonial parish president, that still can appoint someone to the nominating committee? Why would he appoint someone to the nominating committee, whether he's a paid figurehead or not? I think that's all I've got.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Jeff Pettit.
This is one section of ABA's document that has changed a couple of times since it was put out last October in what was then its final form, and I guess it's still not its final form. I do have a concern, and that's the composition of the nominating committee. 7 natural persons, all shall be qualified electors of Ascension Parish. Governing authority shall appoint 5. And here's where my big concern comes in. 1 shall be one of the largest 10 employers in Ascension Parish. 1 shall be from a pool of nominees selected by the 4 Rotary organizations in Ascension Parish. 1 shall be the superintendent of Ascension Parish Schools or the chancellor of river parishes. 2 shall be appointees just selected by the governing authority. That's okay. The Chamber of Commerce selects 1. That's a big change. The parish president shall appoint 1. We don't have a parish president, so that obviously needs to change. Where is that selection going to be made? Since we don't, y'all have suggested not having a parish president right now, so that needs to be addressed.
You have a suggestion?
I'm not on this committee. I wish I was. I want to see what ABA suggests, because that's what this committee is. But anyway, here's my concern about the makeup of this committee. If I can put this on the overhead, please. This is the current cost of the industrial tax exemption in Ascension Parish. This is 2015 numbers. It's the last ones I could get from Together Louisiana. The source of the data is Louisiana Economic Development Authority, assessors reports for the year 2015, and from the Louisiana Tax Commission reports 2015. Year 2015, we had $1.3 billion exempt property in Ascension Parish through ITEP. Annual cost to the parish, $130 million. The property taxes paid in 2015 were $126 million. And the reason it's a concern to me, looking at the makeup of this nominating committee, it is quite possible that a majority of the nominating committee could very well be, or their companies, recipients of ITEP dollars. Does anybody else see a possible or a potential for a conflict of interest? Because I sure do. And that needs to be addressed, along with the fact that the parish president, in this form right now, has the ability to appoint one of these people, and that thing has been recommended for removal. So, if somebody could answer those questions, I would be interested in having the answers, and I would like to enter this into the official minutes of this meeting.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Kim Christie.
The nominating committee comes from the business community, the education community, and regular citizens. When are these different groups coming to the meeting to express why they are more qualified to choose my leader than I am? I want to see someone from the Chamber of Commerce. I want them here so they can tell me why they are more qualified. I want someone from the Rotary Club. What makes anyone think they are better qualified to choose my leader? I want someone here to tell me why they are better qualified. Has anyone spoke to the Rotary Club and Chamber? Do they want to be involved in government? Why do they want to be involved in government? Do you think they may have influence over the selected parish manager, especially since the parish manager can fraternize with civic organizations? Who are these 10 largest employers in Ascension Parish? Has anyone spoke to them? Do they want to be involved in parish government? What makes them more qualified to choose my leader than I am? I want them here so they can tell me what makes them more qualified. And the school board in River Parish's community college, really? Shouldn't someone find out from their legal department if this is appropriate? How would they be more qualified? Bottom line, the nominating committee is all about ABA maintaining control and having a doorway for their pay-to-play contributors. We have committee members writing parts of the charter, and ABA saying it has nothing to do with what was written. And then they say, oh, well, yes, we do take ownership of the king for a day idea. This is pure, utter chaos. Had ABA gathered the required signatures on a petition, the charter would be on a ballot. The council is using this committee for a scapegoat. They are the ones elected to make the hard decisions, and they want to pass it on to this committee. If the committee of the whole had followed through and did its job, we would not be here. The King of Ascension idea, can't you see this ABA charter is not worth the paper it's written on? And even though you took that idea out of the charter, it's still not worth the paper it's written on. Now I'd like to show this slide. I asked one of the committee members on Wednesday, I said, where do you think the corruption is? And he thought about it probably for about 5 seconds. And he says, it's everywhere. Where do you think the corruption is in this ABA document? It's right here. 501c4 donors. It could be anybody. It could be anybody in this country, anybody in this world. Pay to play. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Quintmore.
Thank you. Mr. Acosta asked if this sounded like the police jury system. It's exactly like the police jury system. When I was at the committee of the whole meeting, and they brought in a expert from Georgia, county manager. He said, if 5 commissioners tell me to paint this building Pepto-Bismol pink, I'm ordering paint. How many degrees you think you need to order paint? This is a yes man. And when 6 police jurors tell him what to do, and they tell him to jump, he's going to say, how high? And when they tell them they want their ditches cleaned just in their districts, say, you got it. I better get my roads done in my area, or you're gone, you're fired. He's going to say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. Let's talk about this nominating committee. We're going to have somebody from the top 10 largest employers of Ascension Parish. If you had a single one here, explain why he's more qualified to select who governs me than me. If you had one, even one. How about all 10? Full nominees from the Rotary. Now, I want a Rotary member not on this committee. I want them to come here and explain to me why they're more qualified to select who governs me than me. Because they're on Rotary? They got to join a club to participate in my government? Is that what we got here? Join a club? How about superintendent of parish schools? Where's Mr. David Alexander at? Y'all talked with him? Why is he not here? He's selecting who governs me. Why is he not here? How about current elected school board member? You going to ask that member how he feels about Ascension Parish School getting involved in parish government? How about parish government start getting involved in Ascension Parish school business? Talk about they should put up money when they put schools on major thoroughfares to fix roads. I want more transparency in our school system, know where the money goes. They're going to get involved in our government. I want to get involved in their government. So let's get some Ascension Parish School Board members here. Let's ask them why they're getting involved in Ascension Parish government politics. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, Mr. Lassard.
Mr. Tommy, thank you for that comment you made on transparency for ABA. I think that needs to be done. Appreciate it, Mr. Chair. I want to say something. The proposal that ABA made, and they had to change it because it was so damn unpopular that it wouldn't pass on a ballot if you tried to sell it to them and give them money to vote. Ain't nobody would vote for something stupid like that. So they try to butter it up with the parish president position. Oh, we're going to go ahead and give you the right to vote for your parish president, but we're going to go ahead and put a manager. Okay? Well, that's fine and dandy, but that ain't what I want, and that ain't what Ascension Parish people want. If y'all go with this the way y'all going, it's going to backfire on y'all big times. And it's going to backfire on Ascension Parish. You know, a manager can be just corrupted as a parish president. But I don't want a council in control of a parish manager. I do not want that. They can remove a parish manager, but they can't remove a parish president. And there's a lot of difference there. But I feel like appointment, you're talking about appointments and compensation and all this bull. Yeah, we already have that with the parish president system. We appoint them by election. Okay? We do it by election. The best candidates we have, everybody should be able to run for council, parish president, whatever. We appoint them by election. Okay? We compensate, the compensation part of it is done by the council, the governing body. They make the decision on the pay scale. Okay, maybe we might not like what they say, but we do that now with the parish president. Okay? So, And when you're talking about getting rid of him, removal, well, we do that by election. If a council man or woman ain't doing their job, we put somebody else in as a candidate and vote and try to get them elected to make changes. Sometimes the election cycle really helps the person that's in there already. It gives them a little bit information and kick back on what the people really think of what they're doing, and makes them maybe they can make some changes. So I advise this committee to drop this stupid proposal by ABA.
Okay, that concludes the public comment on section 306, appointment, contract, compensation, and removal. Now, the committee can vet or discuss any issue, any part of the section that they would like to. Mr. Martinez?
Yes, I don't know why you need a nominating committee. This goes back to it seems like the same exact committee or close to the committee that we have with Cincinnati Economic Development Council. I mean, you know, you're going to the same thing. What I'd like to see is that we scratch out the nominating committee in its entirety and send it to the Council Human Resources Department. Those guys are elected. They have to look at it, and then the council can make it from there. I think if you keep the nationwide search firm and let them come with the top 5 candidates, and then let the Council Human Resources vet it, and then bring it to the full council. I won't make that in the form of a motion.
Okay. Ms. Cazzo.
Mr. Martinez, are you referring to the, I think you may be referring to the Personnel Committee?
Yeah.
Okay, not
Yeah,
the
but
Human
I mean,
Resources
I
Department.
call it, yeah.
Okay.
But with the help, enlist the help of the Human Resources Department. You have all those tools there, and you're gonna have the national search firm, maybe bring it down to 5 people. So why would you get a nominating committee? I don't think, in fact, I've talked to a couple people on here, that's names on here, that are not interested in, or wanting to be a part of this. So I'm not gonna mention their names for their privacy, but I'm just telling you that I think that should be the way it goes. You're elected officials, you should make that decision. And, you know, you're going to have a national search firm doing this already. So I think when you start bringing in outside people that really don't have any interest in government, or, I don't know what makes them a whole lot better qualified. I mean, Rotary, you don't have to have a master's to be in Rotary, or you don't have anything. You don't have to. And I'm sure BASF, one of the biggest one, I'm not sure that they'd want to get involved in parish government. So I think you need to simplify this. I think you're overdoing it if you're going to do it. Just let the council, personnel committee, and the council make the decision, and let the national search firm dwindle it down and get it down to 5.
Okay, Ms. Cazzo?
Tommy, I would second that. I think that makes sense. I've had some heartburn myself as looking at this about the makeup of the nominating committee, and so I'm willing to second that. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Dawson?
What? But I think if we read down a little bit further, and I'm not against this, I'm just there is some minority protection built into this, and so I'm not sure how how do you continue that? So one person who's a member of the recognized racial minority residing on that portion of parish line east of the river, and one person who's a member of recognized racial minority resident line on the west side.
The councilman.
So
One from each side.
just do it through the council is what you're saying, not through the nominating committee.
Yep. Any reservations? Mr. P.T.?
Are we still talking about, if we're going to do a council nominated committee, and I'm not sure if we're about to get rid of the nominating committee provision or not, I would suggest it has to be 11 council members, that you can't just exclude anybody's district, and then a decision as momentous as that. My one reservation about, and I got some serious issues with the nominating committee, don't get me wrong, but, okay, our Ascension Parish's recent history with national searches has been disgraceful, okay? And the school boards too, okay? The school board did a national search to find the guy they wanted in the first place, David Alexander, who didn't even apply to the national search. I don't know how many applicants you had. It was like 112 applicants, and they whittled it down to 47, and they Skype interviewed 47, and they whittled it down to 6. And they flew 6 people in to be interviewed, and I don't know where they were from. None of them had one from Louisiana, one close, and they scrapped the whole process and hired the guy they wanted to hire in the first place, who had not even applied. So, I mean, I'm tempted to make a motion that we scrap this whole ABA thing right now, to be honest, but I know that won't get any support. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I mean, the Ascension Parish government national search was 4 days long. And they got the guy that they obviously pre-selected beforehand. And to be perfectly honest, I believe ABA has their own pre-selected parish manager here. Might be the same person. So this is, I mean, the whole thing's flawed, okay? And it takes more than, no disrespect to the District 6 councilman designee, but this is a comprehensive change to how we do business, conduct business in Ascension Parish. And it merits more than 15 minutes of discussion, and maybe get some unbiased expertise with somebody who knows what they're talking about, because I'm not qualified to make this decision. I'll be the first to admit that. And I've been the biggest, loudest mouth on this committee.
Amen.
Can I get a second there? Amen. Okay. So, I don't know. I mean, both are flawed to me. Okay. Are you going to get a legit? And here's the other issue. I mean, given the personnel committee of the parish councils, the way they operate, okay, you think that the planning commissioners are not predetermined? Because if you believe that, okay, so I'm not saying we heard the speakers talk about we live in an environment right now locally where people are mistrustful of the government, and this process has done nothing to instill any trust. Okay, so there is no right or wrong answer. The right answer is electing honest, hardworking, studious, qualified candidates to office. That's the answer.
Mr. Martinez?
I was just going to say that the search firm that you hire, I mean, they should be unbiased to do that and to get you down to, if you want to go down to the top 3, that should at least get you, and not everybody in Louisiana is going to have a master's in business administration, I can assure you that. So I don't think this person, if this passes, is going to come from Louisiana at all. I think he's going to come, or she, from some other state that has this form of government, concept of government.
Okay, Mr. Dawson?
So just a couple of comments. One, I've been involved in 2 of these national searches, one for the chamber, the new executive CEO of the chamber, and then one for economic development. And I thought they both produced good quality people, and they produced good quality candidates. We also had a recent opening at the HR, and we did a national search, and ended up, I don't know if you call that somebody from Vacherie being national, but we got a very qualified young lady for that position. I'm a little bit, if we're talking about the personnel committee, unfortunately, I got to agree with Mr. P.T. here that you got just a few council people represented on that committee, and I'm not sure that it's diverse enough in the council line. So those people get 2 bites at that apple, or they get 1 bite and then they get another one as a. And look, and I'm also, not married to this nominating committee either. So.
The committee of the whole.
The whole, is that what you're saying? Well, I mean, just send it to the council then. Just take the top 3 people from the search firm, send it to the council.
Okay, Ms. Cazzo, did you have a comment?
I share, I agree, having continued listening to everyone's discussion. I share the concern about the personnel committee, so I would think that it's the council's just sitting as the council might be the most effective way to handle it, and narrow the number of individuals down to a reasonable, very reasonable level, 3 to 5, so that it would not be a protracted process.
Okay, so as we appreciate it, the motion is made and second that we will eliminate the nominating committee, and then it will be the committee of the whole of the parish council. Am I correct?
Comment on that. Well,
Mr. P.T.
Committee of the whole?
No.
Didn't we just have some experience with the committee of the whole? How'd that work out? Okay, anyone? Anyone? Bueller?
Well, this can go to the council. You can call a special meeting to have the council consider this, and then you have, they can have more than one meeting if they need to.
Can do a lot of things, as we have been instructed.
I'm not sure you were called on. Were you called on?
Didn't hear him call Bill Dawson's name either.
Okay, let's get back to the, Mr. Martinez, restate your motion and its second.
Okay, I'd like to scratch the nominating committee, keep the search firm, a national search firm, okay? And then go from there, and then they nominate the top 3, and then bring it to the parish council.
Okay, that's the motion. It's been second.
Just one other comment.
Mr. Burnett?
And I wholeheartedly agree with some of the sentiments that are being mentioned, but I also appreciate the idea of recognizing racial minorities within the search forum. With that being said, I'm perfectly fine with just sending it to the council, but I'm not sure that is a way where we can tie in a minority vote. I know we talked about 2 on the council. I mean that's not 100% as well. But I just wanted to make that comment. No need to move on a motion about it. But I just want to make that comment that I appreciated the fact that our racial minority would be recognized, and it gives us a sense of comfort, so to speak, if you had qualified people that reside within the parish that were able to voice their opinion on whom they were to be governed by. But I also understand if we trusted a national search forum and it went down to the council as well. But I just want to make that comment.
Thank you. Mr. Trosclair.
I agree with Mr. Burnett about I personally like the nominating committee to prevent what happened at the school board. I personally like it, but I can go with the will of the committee on this one.
Any further comments? Questions?
Question on the motion. So how many people are going to go on this committee from the council?
Mr.
It's going to be the council as a whole.
Council as a whole.
Yes, and they're going to narrow it down to 3. The National Search Firm will narrow it down to 3 candidates, the most qualified candidates.
Mr. P.T.
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. Any further discussion? Mr. Jarrow.
I just like 3 to 5. Or yeah,
let's do 5.
Yeah.
Change it to 5.
I mean, is there,
I went down to 5 candidates, the
Can
5
we hear
best
some
qualified
argument,
candidates.
Sort of discussion why 5 is better than 3, because I like 3 better.
That's the next move we're going to make. Okay, let's vet 3 or 5, or 3 to 5. Floor is open, Ms. P.T.
I mean, 3 seems like a lot better, just for brevity is the soul of wit, right? Okay.
I think we ought to put one definite number.
Look, you're hiring a national search firm. I can tell you the last legitimate national search that I saw was a school board, and that was a fiasco. Okay, they whittled it down. Or is there going to be some methodology or procedure established for the national search firm to follow? I don't. Is that going to be here? Is it going to be ordinance? I would suggest that it probably needs to go in the charter. Okay, so when I read the search firm language was not in the ABA original document, if I remember correctly. When I read it, I thought it left much much to be desired because it did not specify. You know, you can rig a national search just like you can rig an election, like you can rig a committee. You can, I mean, there's no, you know, so I would like some language, and I don't have any language to suggest right now how to ensure that the national search firm process is done fairly, transparently, openly, all those things that we keep hearing about. So I don't know. I would suggest we probably could use some expertise to guide us on, one, what the right number of candidates to be selected, and two, how the process is supposed to work. What are they going to do? Are they going to go on Amazon.com or Craigslist to identify these candidates? And this is how half-assed, pardon me, my French here, okay? But that's how haphazard and slipshod and by the seat of your pants, this whole, for Christ's sakes, we already voted to recommend this to the council. Okay? So, whatever.
Mr. Burnett?
I mean, I tend to agree that just having, you know, a nominated, you know, search firm, it leaves a lot of room for error. So that's why, personally, I thought that the committee formed by citizens of the parish was like a buffer. Yeah. And that's just my comment.
Okay, any other comment on 5 or 3 candidates? What's the will of the committee?
Do we have a motion?
We still have. But this is a part of the motion, wouldn't it be?
I made a motion, and it does say on the search firm, the firm shall be a professional organization with experience in coordinating and operating a search for an executive level position. Now, you could expand on that if you would like to make it a little bit, but I mean, you got at some point, I mean, not everybody's crooks. I mean, you would want to think that, but, you know, it's, you got to trust at some point, somebody's got to trust somebody. I mean, this is, I mean, I could make, sit up here and say I don't trust anybody on this committee, but you know that at some point we just gotta you know trust your judgment and hopefully do the right thing.
To add to that, I would think that any search firm or firms that's interested in the process will bring forth their qualifications and experiences to be vetted by the parish decision makers.
Well, I would like to hear you explain why you think that. Because what I viewed in the recent past, and it has been happening, I'll tell you that. Okay, paying 200 some odd thousand for SSA, whatever that was. Okay, these expert firms you bring in that are much like a parish manager, beholden to 6 members of the council, are going to do and say what they're paid to do and say. So if we can't establish some procedures to protect against that, the rigging of the process, okay? And we can't do that because we're not qualified to do that, and we have no access to any expertise that somebody can come and tell us how these things need to be worded in our Constitution, okay? Which, by the way, we've already recommended revising to the council. But if we can't afford, look, it's the resolution again. Can we get an expert here to tell us how the search firm's supposed to work? Is that too much to ask? It's in the resolution. Okay? Because I don't feel comfortable even casting a vote on this. I know so little about it. And I'd stack up my expertise on this with anybody on this committee, and I know nothing about this. Maybe not Mr. Martinez. Okay? So can we get some expertise on this? This is an important issue, and we treat it like it's, you know.
Make a motion.
I move that we hire an expert to come in here and help us with the revision of Section 3-06, B1 and B.
That would be a substitute motion. We have an existing motion on the floor.
I'll second
It's actually a
that.
different motion, but I don't know if you'd call it a substitute or.
What is it, how are you going to deal with this?
Okay. Well, my motion would be to eliminate, if I'm dealing with Mr. Martinez's motion, okay? Wouldn't we just eliminate first, and this is a procedural matter, I guess, wouldn't we just eliminate the language in Section 3-06B2, So 2 would be eliminated, and maybe we can come back to the search firm, because I don't know how Cinnamon would, as good as she is, I don't know how she writes these minutes up, but, and then we can come back to that, and I'll make them, it seems like the way to go. I don't, maybe I'm wrong.
So let's see, can I,
Mr. Dawson.
is that eliminate number 2?
I would, I'm making a substitute motion to Mr. Martinez's motion.
Yeah,
And that is to eliminate all of the verbiage in his motion having to do with the search firm. Okay, and just go back to his original motion, which is to eliminate paragraph B2 having to do with the nominating committee. And if we can address that, then we can come back to B1, was my substitute motion.
And then you would defer, well, you're not making a motion on B1 right now.
Not as yet.
I would call your attention to F down there, because that's the, that's what happens, in the interim period, so. That's not a part of the nominating
Are you
committee.
calling my attention to that? No, what you're talking about in F
Yeah.
has to do with when there is a nominating committee is impaneled to address what happens in the interim when we don't have a parish president, ceremonial or otherwise, and we don't have
No,
a
you're
parish.
right, you're right. I misread it.
Okay.
You're right.
Okay,
Okay.
Mr. Gyro.
That's one for PT.
Yes, sir, thank you. Personally, I agree with Tommy. I mean, the verbiage he used, I think, was fine. I mean, you can only go so far, and I'm not to try and make every decision based on something we've seen go wrong. I don't agree with that. And we're looking at the negative side of everything, and I've seen them. You try and make everything, for lack of a better word, idiot-proof. You just can't do it. And you can only go so far, and you make the recommendation of a national search firm with the wording that he used, and you move on.
Okay, we have to vote on Mr. PT's motion first, and then we'll come back to Mr. Martinez if necessary. And Mr. PT, for the record, please state your motion again.
My motion is to eliminate from section 3-06, B, paragraph 2, in its entirety, all the way down to, that would be 6 paragraphs. A, well, you got AA, BB, all of B2, leaving B1 intact for now.
Through F.
Well, all of B2.
Okay. And your motion was seconded by
Mr. Dawson, I believe.
Mr. Dawson. Okay, motion on the floor.
So we're basically doing away with the nominating committee.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, any opposition to the motion? Any opposition? Okay, we have an objection by Mr. Gyro. Roll call vote.
Mr. PT, did your motion also include to have the expert come in?
No,
still?
it did not.
Okay. Mr. Dawson?
Yes.
Mr. Burnett?
Yes.
Mr. PT?
Yes.
Mr. Trosclair?
Yes.
Mr. Jarrow?
No.
Mr. Kazare?
No.
Ms. Casso?
Yes.
Mr. Lawler?
He's obstinate.
Mr. Martinez?
No.
Ms. Laurent?
Yes.
Mr. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mr. Lambert?
No.
You have 4 nays, 7 yeas.
Okay, motion carried. Okay, so
Okay.
next.
I don't think we're quite finished with that, because we need to talk about it. We mentioned B1.
We just eliminated.
Mr. Cleaser, I would
We
suggest
already
that there's
eliminated 2.
some things to discuss in 3-06, paragraph A as well, that we skipped over with the B. Or we can address my motion on B1, however you want to handle it.
3-06A?
A, correct.
Did not we discuss that?
No, we
Okay.
jumped to a motion by Mr. Martinez,
All
is
right.
my recollection. I would suggest, I would like to hear some discussion on why the appointment of the parish manager shall require a two-thirds vote of the council, as opposed to a simple majority. And I would also like to know why we're envisioning extending a contract to a parish manager halfway into the next elected council's term. Because that seems like insane to me. And, I think we have to have some discussion on that. That's a pretty big
Okay.
provision.
For the record, let's go back to section 3-06.
Paragraph A.
subsection
Paragraph A,
Paragraph A. Let me read it into the record. The parish manager shall be appointed by the governing authority. The appointment shall require the affirmative vote of not less than two-thirds of the membership of the governing authority. Such appointment shall be subject to the approval of a written contract of employment with a term of not less than 24 months, but for a term that may not extend more than 18 months beyond the term of office of the membership of the governing authority making such appointment. Okay, the floor is open for discussion. Any comments?
I don't want to start, but, okay, you see some hands over there.
Do we have any comments on paragraph A?
I
Mr.
just want to
Martinez?
know, it says appointment, contract, compensation, and removal. Nowhere on here do I see any compensation. I don't mind it being open, but I'd like to cap it at some point. I mean, I don't want somebody to come in here and make $500,000. I'd like to at least give the leeway to, discuss the contract, but don't give them an open checkbook and say, hey, this guy's so qualified, we're going to give him $500,000. I think we should put a cap somewhere along there. Now, I don't know what that cap should be. Maybe some of you have some thoughts on it.
Okay.
Well, whatever you put, they gonna know what it is. Yeah, I know, but I mean, they gonna find out what it is if they have any intelligence at all.
I would agree with Mr. Martinez in concept, certainly. But what is that right number? I know the only 25-year city manager of Mountain Brook, Alabama, who apparently is their rock star, ACEMA rock star. He makes $180 a year. Our current parish president makes $148. I think certainly $500,000 is, I don't know, if the guy's worth it, he's worth it, but who's to say? Because he's probably only going to be here for 2 years or whatever, I don't know. So maybe we can get some information about similar municipalities, the size of Ascension with some of the similar duties, and see what the going rate for these guys is? Is that possible? I'd like to see how, I don't know, Columbia County Charge does it, or somebody else. Or, we can just wing it. Either way, whatever y'all want to do.
Any further comments? Mr. Martinez?
I'd like to ask Cinnamon, make in the form of a motion that we do get some comparable salaries for managers with, I guess, the same demographics or close to the demographics we have here in Ascension.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on that motion? Mr. Jarrow?
So, and I guess, so what is it again we're getting? Say that again?
Just going to get somebody we do some comparisons of similar counties or.
And I think, that's what you do when you write the contract, and I don't have a problem putting that in there, because if you put a number, then you got to come back and change every time the salary levels change in the area, you'd have to come back and change the number. I just think that's what you do when you make the contract. The people that we put in office, and the 2/3 that vote them in, I guess they would be part of making sure that contract is not that
That's fine.
extravagance. But
something
I agree with putting the verbiage in there.
So, who's going to find out this
Trustclair.
information for us?
We just asked Cinnamon to get that research done. Any further comment, Mr. Dawson?
So I guess it was also brought up about the two-thirds. So I'd like to maybe hear the other thoughts on that, two-thirds versus simple majority.
I've got some
If there's any
thoughts.
discussion on that.
If I recall correctly, because we have the original document, if I recall correctly, it had, this was a simple majority to hire. You know, once you find, your search firm does its bit and you got the guy there. I think originally it was a simple majority, but I think it should be a simple majority. You know, if we're going to dive into this, dive into it. Let's figure out if it works or not. And, you know, I think I do have some concerns, particularly when it comes to the firing of the parish manager who has been hired. And I think the current verbiage in ABA's proposal, well, I guess it's our proposal now, needs 8 votes to get rid of a guy. So, you know, I think the simple majority, 6 duly elected councilmen to hire the guy makes more sense to me. You know, identify him, search for him, get him here, get him hired, get him to work, and let's find out. Now, I would, another issue, I would like to see the possibility that the contractual term of a parish manager extending 18 months into the next council's term. I would like to see that eliminated too, and I plan to make a motion on that once we finish this discussion. And I'll point out that Mr. Gaston, or Eagle, he says he's had to be reappointed every 2 years. Okay, anytime you have a change on a staggered council, he gets reappointed. So I think it's an awful idea to hang, you know, maybe we'll have some changes on the parish council in 2019. Good possibility. Okay, so I think that new council should have the ability to hire its own guy. And you can't do that here. And it will potentially hamstring that new council through their entire term, particularly if it takes 8 to fire a guy. So, you know, I'll go ahead and make a motion since it's fresh in my mind. I would like to see the language in section 3-06, paragraph A, where it says, I'll read I think it's the 3rd sentence into the paragraph. Such appointment shall be subject to the approval of a written contract of employment with a term of not less than 24 months, but for a term that may not extend more than 18 months beyond the term of office of the membership of the governing authority making such appointment. I would like to see removed all of it after 24 months. So starting with but for a term that may not extend, I'm moving that we remove all of that language from this particular paragraph. Thank you.
Trosclair?
I personally, I like it as is with the 2/3 instead of just a simple majority. On that, I think we would get a better candidate, and I would object to Mr. PT's motion.
Well, that's not
motion has to do with the 2/3.
I'm also objecting further along in this document. There's a yearly review of the parish manager, so I just object to the changes.
Well, I'd like to hear your arguments about the yearly review, why that's a stopgap and a safeguard against this.
Well, first and foremost, Mr. PT's motion did not get a second.
It did not.
So it's been seconded by Mr. Martinez. All right, now, discussion.
He's already objected.
Yeah,
So
we
got
have
that.
discussion and objection. Now we do this discussion. Mr. Trosclair, then Mr. Dawson.
It's my personal opinion. I think it would be 2/3 to hire, 2/3 to fire would be a better way to go about getting this manager and having a little bit more job security for them. You know, having the parish managers or the new council come up and having to automatically rehire somebody is why the 18 months in there. So that's why I'm objecting. I agree with the way the way it's written.
Okay, Mr. Dawson?
Well, you're taking away the top end limit altogether. I'm not necessarily in favor of that. So you can't, you know, what we have, if we did it exactly as this, it would be, the only restriction, it couldn't be less than 24 months, so it could be 24 years. So I think there needs to be some kind of top-end restriction also, myself.
Okay. Other comments? Mr. PT?
Mr. Truscott brought up the issue of job security. I mean, we had, not our experts, but we did have some experts come here and took up about 7 hours of our time. In the way, even their academician and the actual guys who have done city management, the job security that they received was a severance package. Okay, and to me, saddling, requiring 8 votes to get rid of a guy and giving him the possibility to have 18 months extended into the next council's, I mean, that's a lot more than job security. Okay, you're saddled with this guy. I mean, potentially 7 out of 11 want to get rid of a guy, and not only can you not fire him, but you're stuck with him contractually for 18 months. That's not how anybody else does it, by the way, that I've seen. Okay, but we wouldn't know that because nobody's talked about it. The people with some knowledge about this who were here, brought here by a better ascension, I might add, said their job security was a severance package, generally 4-month severance package when they were fired. So why are we extending haphazardly, by the way, because I hadn't heard an argument why this is good. I heard this, personal opinion is good. My personal opinion is bad. Okay, and we're here to vet this document. Okay, vet means examine, critically examine, and come up with the best product we can. So if all we got is 11 or 10 personal opinions about we think this is good, we are in dire need of some expertise to give us some guidance. And I would make another motion that we bring in an expert to this committee, okay, to give us some insight and some information and maybe some data and some expertise on this all-important issue so that we're not relying on a blogger's personal opinion, okay? I'm moving to hire an expert and get him or her here, hired by this committee, hired at the suggestion of this committee, money's got appropriated by the council, to get an expert here to tell us what's the best way to go about this. The contractual language of whoever we're going to be hiring as parish manager. That's my motion.
Mr. Jarrow.
Point of order. Do we have another motion? Did it fail or?
No, I think it was second.
But we didn't.
It died of a second.
Okay, it died for lack of a second.
So this is the only motion on the floor right now. It died because of a lack of a second. So this is the motion, the only motion that's on the floor. Mr. Dawson.
Well, I'd like a clarification. If be more specific about exactly what the expert are you talking about the 2/3 and the length of the contract, or just the length of the contract?
If we can hire one guy or one gal with that expertise to talk about both of them, I'd like to get him or her here. If an expert does not possess that expertise in both of those, then my motion is to hire 2.
Mr. Truscott.
We have an expert here that deals with, this is modeled after the school superintendent. And so if we have to vote whether or not we can let Danny Garrett come up here and give us his expert opinion on it, let's vote whether or not we can let the man answer the question.
You can put that in a motion.
I make a motion that we, right here and now, have Danny Garrett come up here and give an explanation.
Second.
Object.
Okay, it's been motioned and second to have Mr. Garrett come before the committee for further explanation of the subject matter. It's been objected by Mr. PT. Now it requires a roll call vote.
Well, I'd like to discuss first. Okay. Can we discuss?
I thought we were discussing.
Well, you said you would call for a roll call vote.
Okay.
Okay.
If you want to vet
and
it,
the motion is Danny Garrett.
Yeah, up or down.
Right.
Okay.
No, but I want to discuss Danny Garrett. Okay. Okay. Because this is a deliberative body. This is how this is supposed to work, by the way. Okay. Is it not?
Sure.
Okay? And you can give me the stink eye all you want over there, and I don't really care. Okay. And I have the utmost regard for Mr. Danny Garrett, having had the opportunity to enjoy his company and his expertise. He's an expertise. He's got a lot of expertise. But he's hired by a better ascension. Okay? So if we're going to hire our own experts, great. if y'all want to suggest Danny Garrett to the council to hire him as our own expert, paid by appropriated funds by the parish council of Central Parish taxpayer money, great. I'll show up at that council meeting and I'll lobby for Danny Garrett. But while he's being paid with a better Ascension's nickel, wherever they come from, I'm not going for Danny Garrett. No disrespect, Danny. Okay? That's why. And if y'all don't see that and can't concede that it is a conflict so obvious that it is a punch in the nose, that's why I objected, and that's my argument.
Mr. Dawson.
Well, I think if we ask Mr. Garrett these questions, it doesn't preclude us still getting an expert to come here. I don't think those are mutually exclusive.
Well, is the motion that we're certifying Mr. Garrett, by the way, okay, the first couple of meetings, Harry, we had a procedure established and voted on by this committee. I know nobody remembers it, but how we certify experts in this committee, okay? We voted on that, and it passed twice, I believe, okay? That this committee had a mechanism, a procedure to certify our own experts. Now, you want to call Danny Garrett up and ask him his opinion? That's fine. But if we're certifying him as an expert in this, then my objection stands. You just call him up and ask him some questions? Hey, man, knock yourself out.
Okay, you have the right, and you've expressed your opinion, Mr. PT. However, this is a democratic process. If the committee members want to entertain questions and answers to Mr. Garrett, then guess what? The majority vote. The majority will rule.
Said, Mr. Queezer, I'd be happy to hear question and answer, but question and answer is one thing. Certifying him as an expert in this field is quite another, okay, because it gives the imprimatur of legitimacy to this committee and this vote and what he's about to say. And that, I mean.
Okay, your opinion is heard.
No, we're still discussing.
Your opinion
I
is
objected
heard.
to the motion.
Mr. Gyro.
Yeah, I believe it was.
Yes, so what do we want an expert for? To tell us what?
To tell us why sticking the Ascension Parish with a parish manager 18 months halfway into the next council's term is a good idea, and why it's a good idea that it takes 8 of 11 elected councilmen to appoint a guy.
So
why is that a good idea?
You're asking for opinion.
I'm asking for expertise,
we don't need
not opinions.
Expertise for everything that's in here. I mean, what we're doing is we're trying to, now we got to go out and find expertise out there. So now we're going to extend this thing to 6 months.
If we had hired an expert like we were charged to do at the beginning, Mr. Gyro, we wouldn't be having this discussion.
Were you recognized?
Can you
I had to make.
You weren't recognized either.
Yes, I was.
You weren't recognized either.
Yes, I was.
Okay, gentlemen. All right, let's bring it back to dead
I was
center.
recognized, sir. I disagree with you.
Let's bring it back to
Watch
dead
the film
center.
if you want it.
I will.
I didn't talk when I was not recognized.
Okay, gentlemen.
I'm just saying that I don't think we need an expert here. I think we need to read the deal. I'm going to go back to what Mr. PT said earlier. I go back and agree with him on what he said. If this was the way this whole thing is going to go, let's send it to the council and like it is right now and move on. Because
Well,
I ain't playing this game for the
Mr.
whole.
Queezer, I can promise you this is how it's going to go. I'm going to do the task that I was charged to do. We're going to vet this thing. If you don't want to vet it, you shouldn't accept the nomination, Mr. Gyro.
All right, I'm going to ask that we come to order, please.
I'm perfectly ordered. You recognize me, Mr. Queezer, and I'm responding to Mr. Gyro.
Mr. Gyro just had the floor.
You just recognized me, Chairman.
No, I didn't. You just burst onto the mic. Okay? Now, let's do it like this. You have your motion. It's been objected to.
I thought we had a different motion, but.
Okay, the motion, I'm sorry. The motion is to whether or not this committee, a majority of vote, will allow Mr. Garrett to come and ask some questions.
Oh, I don't object to that. My objection is somehow certifying him as an expert. That's my objection.
I don't know if we're certifying him as an expert.
Yeah, Q&A, let's go.
All right. The motion is on the floor. Could we make sure that we're clear on the motion? And this motion is to whether or not the committee will allow Mr. Garrett to come and answer some questions from the committee. All right? Any opposition to the motion? Any opposition? Hearing none?
Right.
Mr. Lambert?
I object.
Okay, I'm sorry. We have an objection. Okay, we'll execute a roll call vote.
Mr. Dawson?
Hold up.
Yes.
Clarify what we're voting on.
On whether or not to allow Mr. Garrett to come to answer questions posed to him by the committee.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
No. No.
One nay.
Okay, one opposition. So the motion carried. As committee members would like to pose questions to Mr. Garrett, please get recognized by the chair, then state your question. As Mr. Garrett is coming forward, anybody want to ask him a question? Mr. Martinez, you have the floor.
Mr. Garrett, I've been knowing you a long time. I knew your father. He did right away back in the past for the Ascension Parish. I know you wrote this document. Is that correct?
Well,
A part
it's
of
been
it,
said a few
you-
times. I don't know, I didn't just sit down and just write the document. I put the document in form after meeting, multiple meetings with my client, who is a Better Ascension.
Okay.
They articulated what policy changes they wanted to accomplish, and I sort of facilitated walking through language and giving them options of, there's a way to phrase this, a way to phrase that. For example, one of the things y'all talked about was the educational requirements. I didn't make the decision that this is the educational requirements. They told me what educational requirements they were interested in. I gave them pros and cons. I then placed it
Sure.
into language. So
But by no way are you an expert on this. You just put together this document, help them put together from a legal standpoint.
well, I mean, and again, I think I do have a significant amount of experience in local government in Louisiana, and particularly home rule charters.
But there's no council management form of government in any of the parishes. So I don't
No,
think
well-
anybody, there's a reason for that, but I'm not going to go into, but anyway.
I would say I would correct the Caddo Parish Commission is probably the closest we have to a parish manager form of government in Louisiana. They have an elected-wide commission. It's under a home rule charter. They then engage by contract a parish administrator. And so that's probably the closest we have in Louisiana.
Next question. Ms. Cazzo.
Yes, Mr. Garrett, I think I recall, and you can certainly correct me if I'm wrong, that you stated you would not issue an opinion one way or the other whether Ascension Parish of a parish manager or parish president in the last time that you were here.
That's correct. I gave advice on how to achieve that goal. The policy decision is up to the people of Ascension Parish and this committee and the council ultimately.
Thank you, sir. So my question for you is, what would you see as the advantage or disadvantage of having a two-thirds membership of if you were working for us? If you were.
Well, and when we looked at the mechanism of appointment, there were examples that we looked at under Louisiana law. The school superintendent, for example, which is probably the most analogous thing to having a parish manager, they're appointed by a majority, but then it takes a two-thirds to terminate during the term. On the other hand, the state school superintendent actually requires a two-third vote of Bessie. So that's essentially the information that I provided to a Better Ascension when they were confecting it, and then they weighed the policy decision. And there are policy benefits both ways. The benefit of a two-third vote on appointment is you tend to have a consensus appointment, as opposed to a bare majority where when the parish manager comes in, they sort of know that almost half of the council it was not in favor of their appointment. So, like I said, and ultimately that policy decision is something y'all would have to make, but that's the sort of the logic of either majority or two-thirds. Just the benefit of a two-third, I think, is it gives you that notion that you're making a consensus selection.
And if I may continue, sir. And then what was your logic in the, and I'm sure it was the same, in the termination?
Yes, same sort of thing is to have that supermajority requirement for termination, simply because I think the whole point was that the parish manager is supposed to be somewhat apolitical. And one of the things I brought to them is there are several police jury governments that have a parish administrator or a parish manager, but that person literally works, he's not under a contract, not under a term contract, and literally is an at-will employee of the jury majority vote. And so what that can sometimes do is create an issue for the parish manager where their training and experience tells them this is the decision that needs to be made, but the politics, if I'm worried about getting fired, maybe I have to do something else. So by placing that 2/3 in, it does create a bit of independence. And again, as exemplars under school board law, the superintendent to be terminated during a term, it requires a 2/3 vote, takes 2/3 vote with regard to the state school superintendent, as well as, for example, the legislative auditor. In order for the legislature to terminate a legislative auditor, it requires a supermajority. So that supermajority vote then creates that insulation, so to speak. And now, one of the things, y'all, that kind of dovetails into the term of the contract. The notion was you wanted to set some minimum term of the contract, and frankly, the numbers we looked at were similar to what the school superintendent utilizes, and that is you start with a minimum 2-year contract, but then you have to have some end. I mean, you wouldn't necessarily, I don't think, want a circumstance where the council signs somebody to a 10 or a 15-year contract that then you'd have to buy them out of. I mean, recent football coach history has told us that that's a difficult thing. And so the notion was, where is that backstop? For school superintendents, the backstop's actually 2 years. So when a school board hires a school superintendent, the max term of the contract is 2 years beyond the school board that hired him. Now, I know that notion, you're kind of like stuck with that guy, and it takes a 2/3 vote to before you could select someone else without having to pay them. Now, whether or not 2 years is the right, I know there were lots of discussions where should that backstop be. I think from a policy standpoint, is a good idea to have that overlap, simply because I don't think it's a good idea to have a council coming in having to make that decision at their January meeting right after they got sworn in. But by having some sort of overlap, it allows for the incoming governing authority that's just been elected, just taken office, particularly if it's got significant changeover, to sort of make a determination of whether this parish manager is somebody they need, and also give them time, if they want to select someone else, to move in that direction. Now, whether that backstop should be 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, or 2 years, like with the school superintendent, again, that's more of a policy decision. I think just from a structure standpoint, I think you want to avoid having to make that decision at that first meeting, because I just don't know if the members of the governing authority, particularly the newly elected ones, are necessarily equipped to do that.
Mr. Martinez?
Nobody else does. No. I'm going to go a little bit further down here since you're already up here, okay? And on K, it says the parish manager shall be considered the parish president under all applicable state or federal law pertaining to homeland security or emergency preparedness, including declaration and operation under a state of emergency. I'm not quite sure that would meet the muster according to the emergency management or state laws. I think it has to be an elected official. If it's not the parish president, it would have to be the chairman or the president of the police jury, is what I think the way the law reads. Now, you may correct me on that, but I definitely think that if Jeff Wiley knows that a parish manager who's not elected can take over and confiscate stuff, take over actually policing powers, because that's the way the law reads, I don't think he would be happy with that. But again, I think that should maybe, we'll talk about that later, but that maybe I would have to change that to the chairman of the council if
And again, one
Because
of
he's
the issues
elected.
was, in the initial iteration where there was, in one iteration where there was no parish president, you're right, you have to figure out some, because there are some state laws. Now, actually, what the state laws say is they reference parish president. And I can tell you, in my experience around the state with representing a number of police juries, sheriffs aren't real pleased when the president of the police jury, who is just a juror elected from one district, assumes that authority in a state of emergency. And so you would, I do think you would need to, from just a structure standpoint, you do need to clarify that in your charter, particularly if you're not going to have a parish president. Your charter is going to have to make the policy decision as to which individual is in charge. And it could be the chair of the council. It could be someone else, but I think the reason we utilized that was because you wanted to ensure that the charter did match up with state law, and so you have to then recognize who's going to be considered your parish president under those state laws. So again, who that is a policy decision, but it is something that I think from a structural standpoint does need to be in the charter. But like I said, it could just as easily be the chair of the council. I think the notion was, given that the parish manager under this structure has that day-to-day operational authority, that then sort of made that person better equipped. But you're certainly aware that sheriffs don't like even when a parish president takes over, and mayors don't like it when a parish president takes over for a municipal police department too.
Exactly right, so I'm just.
But that's a policy decision that y'all make.
Okay, Mr. P.T., then Mr. Dawson.
Mr. Garrett, nice to see you again.
You too.
You've invoked how the school board does it quite a bit. Last time you're here and now. As understood it, y'all were working off of a model charter provided by some organization, is that correct?
Well, no, I mean, we used lots of different references, and one of the issues was one of the things we looked at was the ICMAs. They have some model language.
Okay.
In fact, that's actually kind of where the parish president piece that got deleted earlier this evening kind of came from, because a number of those entities had a mayor that didn't have full executive authority. It had limited executive authority. But in looking, I mean, like I said, we didn't take one thing and just copy it. They tried to look at a bunch of different resources, and what we tried to do is look at as many different options, and then the members who were kind of directing it then sort of made the policy decision on, well, this is the way we think it probably best should be done.
Okay.
And that's kind of how we did all of it.
Well, who are those members that were kind of directing it?
It's the various members of A Better Ascension. I don't
Okay.
have them off the top of my head. I know
Okay.
Mr. Trosclair, Mr. Scanlon.
Okay.
I'm trying, I mean, y'all could
Okay.
give me, I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't,
Okay.
I could check.
All right, well, what does the ICMA, do they weigh in on this in particular? Is there some kind of recommendation that they have with regard to the number of council members that's appropriate to hire fire? And again, do they have any verbiage or any kind of model language that would address the term of the contract?
I didn't look at, I don't recall whether we got that deep into that portion of the model.
Okay.
Because the membership seemed to be more comfortable with patterning it somewhat after what was already in Louisiana with regard to the school superintendent.
Okay,
So
okay.
it'd be something that people could understand without having to, it wouldn't be completely foreign. It's something that's sort of already in place and people could look at.
Yeah, well, the school boards, their superintendents or managers, are they members of or have any affiliation with ICMA that you know of?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, because I think you would probably concede there's some difference in how a school board operates as opposed to how a parish government operates, correct?
Well, because they have different functions.
Okay. Okay.
But as far as the relative authority, and that's when, if you look at the relative authorities, that's kind of where the similarity looked at, is the administrative day-to-day operational authority of a superintendent as opposed to the administrative day-to-day authority of a parish manager.
Did y'all review, one last question, did y'all review other charters, other plans of government from if he found any similarly situated municipalities, how they do it?
I think, yeah, we did look at some other, and I'd have to go back and look and see exactly the ones we looked at, but we looked at a few different other charters, and mainly when they were looking at, when there was a lot of debate over, well, how do we accomplish this? What's sort of the options? And the notion being that, look at how other people did it, and sometimes it wasn't pick this one or that one. It was maybe a hybrid of two. And in other charters I've drafted, other home rule charters I've drafted, have similar processes. You didn't necessarily pick how jurisdiction A did it or jurisdiction B did it. You maybe tried to figure out that there was maybe something better in between the two.
And what was the goal that you'll hope to achieve by potentially extending the term of a contract into the next elected council's term?
So that the newly elected governing authority wasn't faced with making that significant decision in January right after they got sworn in. It was to give some time for that to last.
Thank you
and there was
much.
debate on how much time that should be.
Yeah, nice seeing you again.
Any other questions? Oh, Mr. Dawson, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Garrett, well, when I read this, it says for a term that may not extend more than 18 months beyond the term of the office of membership. So it wouldn't prevent you from having the contract expire when a new governing authority took over. Am I reading that incorrectly?
I mean, you could have a circumstance where the contract did expire. I mean, that would be left to the contracting decision.
But this language that I read here, put for a term that may not extend more than 18 months beyond the term, but it doesn't say it can't be less than 18 months.
Correct. And that's the thing is, it was just a max backstop. And again, in relying on the similarity between the contracting language and state law with regard to local school superintendents. And the notion is, and I agree with Mr. PT, I've got to correct this time. You wouldn't want a situation where one council comes in, hires somebody for a 10-year term, and then their successors they either stuck with him, have to pay him a ton of money, or they never get to make their own selection. So it's a backstop, kind of both directions, to make sure that each governing authority is certainly going to get the opportunity to determine who should be the parish manager.
Okay, so the next question I have is, it doesn't specifically talk about contract renewal. So this, when I read all this, it's more about the original appointment. Is there a paragraph in here that talks about contract renewal?
No, sir.
No.
Not specifically.
So the contract renewal, is if we're in a contract renewal situation, we're going to have to go engage a national search firm and all these other things?
Well, I don't think so, because I don't think there would have been a vacancy created. Now, I do think the contract maximum provisions would apply to any renewal. So if you had a situation, for example, of a parish manager who was in place, a new governing authority gets elected, and let's say his contract was set to expire a year into the next term.
Well, see, I don't see this distinction, so maybe you can help me and show me where that distinction is between contract renewal and the original search. Because when I see it, it's the same procedure. I'm sorry, I should have maybe under the gun on that.
There's not explicit language in renewal. Now, there is. So
well,
that may be something that would need to be added to the language if you want to address it. Now, one of the things I can tell you, again, using as an exemplar, under the local school superintendent law, there is a provision that essentially states that the school board has got to notify the local superintendent. I believe it's 180 days. I think it's 180 or 90, I'm sorry, I'll check. Prior to the expiration of, I think it's 180 days, prior to the expiration of the contract as to whether or not they were not going to offer that superintendent a renewal. Now, they can do that, but they have to vote to choose not to offer him a renewal. And if they don't offer him a renewal, his term just expires and the contract and the position would become vacant. So that may be something that would need to be added is to clarify.
A paragraph
the
on
mechanism.
contract renewal.
I'm sorry?
There should be a paragraph on contract renewal,
I
is it? Now, let me ask you this. Did you guys consider, instead of saying two-thirds of the membership, did you consider two-thirds of president voting? I like that better than the membership myself.
Well, and they did, there was debate on that. The one thing about two-thirds of membership is it becomes a finite number. And so, in other words, it's, you know exactly what that number is.
Yeah.
You know how many positions there are and what it takes.
Well, the problem is that if somebody's absent, that's a no. If somebody is, doesn't vote, it's a no.
Right.
So, anyway, that's just my personal opinion.
There are, and a number of charters have supermajority requirements for certain things, for example. And, for a lot of charters that have been written in the last, say, 20 years have a provision that requires a supermajority, for example, to propose a tax. And it's normally written in terms of supermajority of the membership, so that there's a finite number.
Tax 8.
The idea being, if you had 6 of 11 and 4 of 6, well, that's two-thirds, but you'd have a decision that was supposed to be made by a supermajority being made by 4 of 11.
Yeah, but
So
you could
that's-
have a minimum vote
Right.
where it
Right.
couldn't be less than 6, for example.
And for example, a number of charters, and this is fairly common with regard to the adoption of an ordinance for a parish charter, is it oftentimes generally requires a majority vote of the membership. So if there's only 6 members present at a meeting, that's a quorum. You still need 5 to pass the ordinance. You don't need 4.
So to go on the other side of that, I mean, when you have to have 8, and say somebody's not there, then really it's, a couple of people can keep you from passing that.
Right. And one of the things that was discussed was the notion of, should the supermajority be on both ends? Or go with majority to higher with supermajority on the back end to sort of protect reactionary. There was also discussion of just going majority and using the remaining term of the contract as essentially the disincentive to make a knee-jerk reaction to terminate a parish manager quickly without a full consensus. Again, those are policy decisions, and they did go back and forth. But that's certainly something that's before y'all, because it ultimately does drive the policy decision. Those are just those are the options I think you have available. I do think, and another gentleman from Alabama mentioned that essentially they had to do every 2 years and it was a majority vote. And his protection essentially was, I think there was a provision in his contract. And
What's
again,
the other thing I don't see in here? Where's the severance at?
well, and in one version, there was severance language. And I did give them some experience that I've had where we've had circumstances, for example, where right now with the school superintendent, you either have to terminate for cause or you can't terminate, and it still takes a 2/3 vote. So you have to have cause and a 2/3 vote, which means once they terminate, they get nothing left in their contract. I've been involved in circumstances and assisted with essentially what is in effect a buyout, where, the school board would like to terminate. Maybe they don't have the full cause, but and rather than have the legal fight, you just work out a negotiated settlement. One of the things that I pointed out is I've seen circumstances where you have a year and a half, for example, or 16 months left on a superintendent's term, and how much is that 16 years worth? Because salary is but one element of compensation, and it gets very complicated to find out what the total compensation is, because you look at, well, let's see, how would that 16 months affect that person's participation in the public retirement system? How do you calculate the other ancillary benefits that come along
Well, I
with
think
it?
we had this in here before, that it was,
one
they
version,
get
yeah.
paid for the term of the contract at the
Just the
salary,
salary.
just the salary portion.
The-
And then we talked about that, and I thought we talked about that, you could get hit for a lot of money, and so you said to limit that by severance, but I don't see it in here.
Well, and actually, the way that was addressed is to put in the contract language, and let's see, I'll provide for, it's actually subsection D. It's the contract shall be terminated prior to the expiration upon the vote of not less than two-thirds of the membership of the governing authority. The contract shall provide for the circumstances and effect of termination, which essentially means it would be a term that would get negotiated between the parish manager and the governing authority upon hire as to how much they would be entitled to if they were terminated. So it could be a certain number of months of their salary. It could be a
Set amount of money.
A set amount.
Yeah.
Now, the only thing about a set amount is, if you needed to fire somebody 2 months before their contract was up,
Right.
I'm not sure you want to pay them the full amount. But it was felt like that might give a little bit more flexibility to creating a severance mechanism that was negotiated between the parish manager and the governing authority without necessarily making that decision and putting it in the charter.
Thank you.
Any further questions to Mr. Garrett? Hearing none, thank you, Mr. Garrett. Okay. Now, as it was discussed previously, and I think we did ask Cinnamon, the secretary, to look at the process or get an expert here before us to answer any further questions dealing with this particular section.
Did we have a motion on that?
I don't know that, yeah, I think I had a motion, but I didn't get a second.
No, it wasn't second at the time, but for clarity, the request is still, am I correct? The request is still to bring an
It
expert?
died for the lack of a second. I don't mind discussing it.
Yeah, for discussion.
For the purpose of discussion, I'll be happy to second it.
Yes, it's for discussion. To bring that expert before us to ask similar questions dealing with this section of the proposal. Okay?
Oh, over here.
Mr. Lambert, I'm sorry.
Question, I don't want anybody to vote on anything. Do we not have the Ascension Parish Council, someone that can write a contract, or we cannot hire a good lawyer to write a contract to take care of all this? Is that not something that our parish attorney and the person who we're trying to hire would negotiate and work out a good deal for both parties? And it's only a good deal if both parties come out on top.
Good point.
I mean, we don't have a lawyer that can write a good contract?
I would think that expertise does exist within the legal division of Ascension Parish government.
Oh, we hire somebody. I mean, we hire people all the time. It's not a big problem, I don't think. Shouldn't be. It may be, but it shouldn't be.
Certainly, I would imagine that will take place regardless of what the search reveals. The contract aspect of it will be drawn up between the two parties agreeing on the sections of it. Mr. Martinez?
And I think if you read down here, that on the attorney part, the council can hire an outside attorney, and I would think that they would do so and hire a contract attorney to do at least the first contract if this thing passes.
Okay. Good point.
And I think that we ought to, I know there's some concern about the 18 months into the next council's term, but cut it to 6 months. I mean, that would give you a good transition, and because you don't want everybody coming in new. Maybe you want everybody new, but I mean, that's probably not good either sometimes.
Good point. Further discussion? Mr. Hernandez?
I think everybody's losing the sight on this contract going 16 months into or 18 months into the other term. It's going to take 90 days to get them in place, 60 to 90 days. I don't know why you need to go past 2 years, because you'll be coming in after the council's voted on anyway, every 2 years or so. And another note, Mr. Chairman, I think the motion you didn't get a second on, Mr. PT, was the one to remove that statement.
I think there were two that I didn't get a second on.
Yeah.
Probably brought that on myself.
I don't. I would second a motion from you to bring somebody else in so we can talk about it.
Okay. And Ms. PT, that was from a non-stink eye, okay?
I don't mind the stink eye, brother.
All right.
It's democracy in action.
There we go. All right, so we got a motion and a second to bring in that expert. And before this committee, is there any opposition to the motion? Mr. Trump?
I would object to that. I mean, at some point, this committee needs to take some responsibility, and this is the will of this committee to decide on something and move forward.
Okay. So we have a motion and second, and now an objection. We will now call for the roll call vote. You got the motion? For clarity. You got it, Mr. Lambert?
Yeah, go ahead, huh?
Okay.
Can I-
Mr. Dawson?
What, a little more clarification on the motion. Who's going to select the expert and who's going to go through this? I mean, is that something, I don't know who's going to, are you going to want Ms. McKee to go do that? I don't know.
I've got some thoughts on that, Chairman Queeser. I think we go back to the original resolution. It talks about this hiring an expert or whatnot. I'm not sure, but, and that brings, we're supposed to adopt a budget too, but whatever.
If it pleases the committee, Vice Chair Lady Cazo and I could look at
I think that's kind of how
those
we did it.
experts. We did it that way before.
So we agreed to.
So if we all would entrust us to assist Cinnamon in vetting the expert to come before us, we don't mind
Do you
doing
need a
it.
motion, Chairman Queeser? I think we already voted on that, by the way, but
Yeah.
if we need another motion, you got it.
Yeah, that, we voted on that for the home rule charter. But now we need to do that for this proposal.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr.
Well, we got a
Peters.
motion here. We have a motion on the floor.
And a
I rescind that motion.
Okay.
So maybe, I think you could, if you wanted to amend the motion and add on there that the chair and the vice chair selects the.
I'm out.
Okay. All right, well, we still have an objection, so we have to vote on that motion for acceptance or non-acceptance.
Well, I'll offer an amendment to that the chair and the vice chair will make that selection.
Okay. Any opposition to that?
And I'll second that.
I'm still objecting to that.
Okay, still an objection. Okay, so we still need to do a roll call vote. Mr. Gyro, before
Yes,
we,
can we read the motion?
To bring in an expert and for Mr. Kazare and Ms. Casso to find that expert.
So bring them in when?
On this section, that wasn't part of the motion.
I don't plan on being here all year.
As quickly as possible.
yeah, ASAP. So, motion's on the floor, it's been seconded.
So we have a motion on the amendment, because you had an objection to the amendment.
That's correct.
So we have the amendment first, and then we can do the amended motion if that passes.
Okay, the first vote will be,
If I could interject just really briefly here, I know that's, you don't believe me, but did the motion limit this to the section that we're talking about now? Because I think we may want to, expand that to, like, whatever else we want to talk about, correct? That's the whole thing?
well, since
Okay.
we'll have the expert here, if it's the will of the committee
Okay.
to present to them,
Just a comment.
that's left up to the committee. If you have any problems with
So I don't think
not
there was a
limiting
restriction
the
in the
expert
motion, was there?
to this section of the ABA proposal, but it's in its entirety.
Okay.
Okay, now we still have an objection, so we still have to do the roll call vote. And this is on the amendment.
Right.
Mr. Dawson?
Yes.
Mr. Burnett?
No.
Mr. PT?
Yes.
Mr. Trosclair?
No.
Mr. Jarrow?
Yes.
Mr. Kazare?
Yes.
Ms. Casso?
Yes.
Mr. Martinez?
Yes.
Ms. Laurent?
Yes.
Mr. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mr. Lambert?
Yes.
Okay.
2 nays.
Okay, thank you. So that motion carries. Okay, the amendment carries. Okay, now, the original motion, Mr. PT?
Can you read me back into the record to refresh my memory? I come up with something else. My original motion was to take out the 18 months, but I didn't get a second for that, so that died, as I recall, if I recall correctly. I will rescind whatever motion. I think whatever I said was taken care of in this last
Okay.
discourse.
So we have no motions on the floor at this time. Okay. Now, we're still on 306, appointment, contract, compensation, and removal.
Chairman, I'm sorry.
Mr. Jarrow.
We had an amendment to a motion.
Yeah. So you still don't have the motion approved.
But his motion, he withdrew it.
Right, I think it was very similar to.
There was only, what we should have voted on was just the amendment, and then you have to vote on the amended motion.
Right. That's what I thought.
Two separate, usually it's two separate votes on an amendment.
Okay. The original.
It's going to challenge Mr.
We're
Key
going
here.
to the original motion now.
The original motion was to bring in an expert, and then that was amended to add that the expert would be selected by the chair and the vice chair. So right now, we have the amendment that's approved for the chair and the vice chair to amend that motion, but we don't have the amended motion approved yet.
Okay. Thank you for the correction.
Mr. Quayle,
Mr. Martinez.
I'd like to make a substitute motion to add the language that Bill said.
Second.
Okay. All right.
To go ahead and bring in the
Still
experts and then have Mr. Cazzo and Mr. Quayle pick them. So I'm going to make a substitute motion, make it easy, make one vote.
Well, we just got one vote left anyway.
That was it, yeah. Yeah.
It's up to you.
Okay. So now we're going to the original motion.
Well, now we got a motion and a second. I mean, I'll rescind my second, if that'll help.
Either way, I rescind.
Okay, Mr. Martinez rescind his.
Okay.
Okay, now, back to the motion at hand, which is, Mr. PT?
No, I believe
Mr.
it was
Dawson?
Mr. Dawson's motion.
The motion was to bring in an expert
Yeah.
to help, with the entire revision here, I think is what the motion was.
Okay,
And then and it was amended to the chair and the vice chair as the ones that
Selectors.
made that decision, yeah.
okay. All right, so the original motion is on the floor, it's been seconded and objected.
Objecting,
We have
okay.
an objection by Mr. Trosclair, so it would require a roll call vote again.
Mr. Dawson?
Yes.
Mr. Burnett?
No.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Trosclair?
No.
Mr. Jarrow?
No.
Mr. Kazare?
Yes.
Ms. Casso?
Yes.
Mr. Martinez?
Yes.
Ms. Laurent?
Yes.
Mr. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mr. Lambert?
Yes.
3 nays.
Okay, motion carried. Can we finally get out of section 306? What do we have left now? Compensation removal.
Mr.
No, I
Queasy,
think
I
we-
would suggest if we're bringing in an expert
I
for
second that.
301, we should probably adjourn right now and wait to get our expert here.
Make that a motion to adjourn.
Second.
That's the will of the committee. Any opposition to the motion?
I object.
We'll have an opposition on the motion to adjourn. So we'll require a roll call vote.
Mr. Dawson?
Yes.
Mr. Burnett?
No.
Mr. PT?
Yes.
Mr. Trosclair?
No.
Mr. Jarrow?
No.
Mr. Kazare?
Yes.
Ms. Casso?
Yes.
Mr. Martinez?
Yes.
Ms. Laurent?
Yes.
Mr. Hernandez?
Yes.
Mr.
Lambert?
No.
4 nays.
Okay, meeting's adjourned. Thank you.